This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. Oh, man, a wild and loony weekend of sports is in the books as we come back at you on C2C at night on a Monday evening, February 3rd, 2025, getting you pumped up and amped up for Super Bowl 59 on Sunday down in the Big Easy. Welcome back in, folks, to C2C at night alongside that man, James Gonzalez, yours truly, Cal McClurg, back with you folks here in San Diego, California. Big game, James. We take a week off because I get hammered by being sick for a majority of the week. We come back now here on Monday, and we're talking about major changes in the NBA and NHL when it comes to trades as the trade deadlines loom for both leagues coming up in a couple of days, for that matter, a full month. And, of course, James, the big game coming up on Sunday from New Orleans and other things going on in the wide world of sports. Big game, James. Welcome back, my man. Good to see you. How we doing tonight?
I'm good. It was good to be back. And, all the trade talk with the NBA, I wanted to find a place to talk about it, and this is it.
As always, folks, here on Coast to Coast at night, C2C at night, myself and Big Game James come at you Monday nights at 10 p.m. Pacific time to recap all the big stories from the weekend that was, and for that matter, the day that was in sports every Monday here on C2C, live via Facebook, YouTube, and the Calamax Sports Twitch channel. If you are, in fact, watching us live and want to get thoughts off your chest, good way, bad way, good takes, bad takes, hot takes, cold takes, loony takes, or whatnot, drop them in that live chat box. Get involved with the program. We'll do our absolute best to ensure that your commentary, as always, is read live on the air here this evening. With that, James, we'll quickly jump in. I think we want to reserve a lot of time for the trades made in the NBA and the NHL. But we will, though, James, get to, of course, the big game coming up on Sunday from the Caesars Superdome in the Big Easy. James, the reigning two-time back-to-back defending Kansas City Chiefs of the AFC will take on the Philadelphia Eagles, the NFC champs, coming up on Sunday. The Chiefs favored by 1.5 points from the Superdome in New Orleans. Of course, James, uncharted territory kind of becomes like the talking point, I would say, for this NFL season. Again, seeing a team going for a three-peat. Never been done before in NFL history. The Eagles back in the big game for the first time in 2 years, or 3 years, roughly, since they last played the Chiefs in, I believe, 2022. Of course, James, high-octane offenses, and I think, James, most importantly here, what I had gathered and read, kind of like the first day of teams coming to New Orleans, kind of be getting the media blitz around town, getting the excitement kind of building for the Super Bowl on Sunday. This might, James, be the healthiest injury report that we've seen in quite a while, James. No one listed on the being questionable, probable, doubtful, or out for the game set. I think, James, is, though, a very good thing, because I think what we always, James, talk about in sports, you want every team playing for a championship or playing in the postseason, you want everybody healthy, and you want everyone's horses in the stables ready to go from the word go and out of a starting gate. So, James, let's first get to that first. How important is it, though, that both the Eagles and Chiefs come to the Big Easy fully healthy? No one's dinged, no one's hurt, no one's out, no one is missing in action with injuries. How important is that, James, right now as we kind of start leading up to the Super Bowl coming up in about 6 days' time?
The only thing I wish is that Brandon Graham would have been healthy for the Eagles. There's an outside chance he might play, but I don't think he will. But he'll get a ring if he wins, no matter what, if they win. But yeah, both teams coming in, it's rare that you get that. There was worrisome issues with Jalen Hurts, but he's going to play without issue, so that's going to be a good thing. that without the leg brace too, knee brace, which will help them even run even better and cut better. So I think that's a welcoming sight for the Eagles that might get them over the hump in the fans' eyes. But with think about this too. The Chiefs all year long has had injuries with the receivers. It started with Rashee Rice. Worthy even was a little gimpy. They brought in DeAndre Hopkins. And then Pacheco, the running back, gets hurt, and he's able to come back at the right time of the year, and I expect him to be running really well. But the only thing is the Eagles and their defense, again, with Graham going out, others have stepped up. I was worried last week, actually, or I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago. It's weird with the bye week. With Jalen Carter, he was down for a little bit, so I was worried that not everybody would be healthy going in. But I guess he shook it off and he's okay. That was a Taylor Swift pun, and I didn't even realize it till now. But yeah, it's a great thing. You normally don't get this, so it should be a high octane game where, of course, anything goes and all the cliches. And it's just great to hear about the injury report not being a factor. You can't blame it on anything right now on that.
Yeah, I think that's important that both teams are healthy, and especially with the physical toll, as I say a lot about the American version of football, to come into the biggest game of the year and no one is injured, questionable, out, or doubtful. That's refreshing to see. I guess, James, kind of go into both teams now. We'll start, I think, James, get him out of the way with the AFC champion Chiefs, again, going for a unprecedented three-peat, never been done before when it comes to Super Bowl champions, James. And I think, though, it really does show repeating's one thing, James. Going back-to-back's one thing. But now, James, we're talking about something never done before, even in the heydays of George Halas and the Chicago Bears back in the early 1920s when the league first came about, to the Steelers, even the Raiders, the Patriots of the 2000s, that we've not seen a three-peat champ ever in the NFL. And it could perhaps potentially happen on Sunday. And I think, though, James, and I know that we can get into all the other, minutia of what Nate Burleson said after they beat Buffalo, that we should appreciate the greatness of the Chiefs, despite maybe tomfoolery, the refs being in their back pocket, as I'll get to a little bit later when we talk about Roger Goodell's State of the League address held earlier on Monday. But I guess, though, James, seeing this team play, though, regardless of good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, though, James, this team just does not have any flaws. I mean, if there were flaws like maybe last season about, well, the defense is this and whatnot, then this year, they got all the injury problems, though, and they're getting bailed out or this or that. James, I do think, though, you do have to stop and appreciate greatness. I, for one, hate the Los Angeles Dodgers as a sports fan, but I respect greatness when I see it, like I saw this past season when it comes to what they did and, of course, what they have done over the baseball offseason. And again, I have no stake in the NFL whatsoever, but I would probably say as an outsider, no knowledge of the NFL, not a fan of a sport, though, I would appreciate seeing what I've seen, though. Again, that's even with whatever people may say about the Chiefs, though. What Mahomes has done since he took over for Alex Smith, Andy Reid found the fountain of youth when he went from Philadelphia to Kansas City, and he's turned that beleaguered franchise around, having quarterbacks like Alex Smith and now with Pat Mahomes. What they have done, though, to keep this core together with him and Kelsey and adding to it, though, as time goes on, though, within the confines of a salary cap, how they have restructured deals, though, and also how the ownership group, the Hunt family, has really, I think, turned this KC football team in not really a big market city. They're smack dab in the middle of the country in Kansas City, Missouri. They're not in New England or in LA or in Chicago. By my definition, KC being a small mid-market city, going for a three-peat, unbelievable job that they've done here. So, James, your overall thoughts on the Chiefs so far and what they have done, though, over the course of not just this season, but these last couple of years?
Yeah, I look back at the Chiefs. They started out as the Dallas Texans. They won a couple of AFL, championships, and then won the Super Bowl III over in Minnesota. Super Bowl IV. Super Bowl IV. And after that, it was a 50-year drought before they got back to the Super Bowl. 70s, 80s, they had okay teams and then really bad ones. And They would never sell out their games at Arrowhead. It was always empty on one side or both sideline or both end zones or whatever. That's all I saw back in the day. And then in the 90s when Schottenheimer got there, just there was a certain expectation that they were going to make the playoffs every year, but they can never get over, the Broncos hump or the Bills hump. They can never do that. And then they found a little success here and there with some star players. And then, getting Andy Reid, working with any quarterback, he's always been great. But now you have Mahomes. Remember, he wasn't highly sought after in the draft that year. And
especially coming out of Texas Tech.
Yeah, because he lost to Baker Mayfield in a game, they put him less than Baker Mayfield. It's weird how that went. But all of a sudden he comes in, and what's great too is that he sat a year and watched, Alex Smith, call plays and run the plays and throw the ball or hand off the ball. And I think that really helped him. And then to little by little put a core around Mahomes that really worked out. A lot of people, and I think even including myself, thought, man, after Tyreek Hill, they're not going to be as explosive. But they kept it going to a point where they were able to draft some receivers. Now, the Bills screwed up because they, at the end of the first round in last year's draft, they made a trade with the Chiefs to make the last pick of the first round. The Bills would get the first pick in the second round. That ended up being Xavier Worthy, the rookie who's done so well with Kansas City. So it's the Bills' fault that they have a little bit more explosiveness in Kansas City. You had some running backs in there that nobody sought after, like Isaiah Pacheco out of Rutgers. I remember watching his last year in college. I'm thinking, man, he's an explosive runner, but nobody really knows of him. But you saw right away in the preseason, I saw him play a couple of years ago, and he's running hard as hell. He's doing everything so well. And so not only does the coaching staff get all the credit for putting these young guys in there and having them play well, but you look at the scouting, you look at general management that is making these decisions, saying how he can plug in well and he can just fit in and play well. That goes to the defense as well. Not only did they have to bring back Chris Jones and give him all that money to get back to this point, and we saw him crying on the sideline, I think, last game against Buffalo because he realized he's going to go back to play in another Super Bowl. But they also drafted some rookies that I don't think many people knew of after losing, God, I forget the safety's name, but he went to Tennessee after helping them win the Super Bowl last year. And you look at him now, he got the bag, but he went from literally first to last almost with Tennessee. Denarius Sneed, that was the safety's name that left, I think, via trade, I believe, and they paid him. But it makes you think, though, with Kansas City that it might take years for someone to kick him off this platform of just greatness and steadiness. They're just steady. All they do is just win no matter what. And they can say,
money
hey,
on their mind?
Money on their mind?
Yeah, is money on their mind?
No, because I think Kelsey got his.
Because you were just quoting DJ Khaled. All I do is win and win no matter what. Got money on my mind.
I didn't even catch that, yeah. But Tyreek Hill went for the money, and he's all of a sudden like Jimmy Butler in Miami, not happy. There's no joy there. It just makes you think if they took less like Kelsey did, they would have the same success. You look at this season, though, they went 15-2, right? But there were games that didn't look like they were going to win. It took a blocked field goal to beat Denver at Kansas City. Denver had them right there.
Going off of the goalpost to beat the Chargers and clinch the division title for the 9th straight season.
Yeah, that's Dodger-like right there when you talk about that many divisional titles in a row. That's like the Yankees from back then. Whatever.
Yeah, the 2000s era Chargers. I mean, they won like 4 or 5, maybe 6 straight titles too when they had Rivers and LT and they were in San Diego, California.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a 15-2 to really love, but it just shows you in any situation they're so together that they can win. So I guess I explained that, but yeah, they're just so together that it's hard to bet against them because they've won in every way almost possible this year and from years past, even without certain stars. It goes to Mahomes, though, being able to work in Andy Reid's system, being able to do whatever he needs to do to win. Uh, and you mentioned with the calls, but we'll talk about that too.
Before we get to the Eagles, James, couple of thoughts from our good man, Big B, Brandon Herrera. He says, "What's up, fellas?" He says, "It's simple, though, fellas. The game will be the referees versus Saquon Barkley. Who will outshine who?" He also says that the Bills could have, and I'm guessing meaning, beating Kansas City. But again, it doesn't really matter because, like James and I said, though, sadly, a while back, Buffalo can beat KC all the time in the regular season. Prove it to me come playoff time, though Callum McClurg has no knowledge or does not care about the NFL product. Even I know, though, that he can beat a team up in the regular season, but does it count, though, on the playoff scoreboard? And that obviously reads, I think, 0-4 now, I want to say, for Josh Allen against the Chiefs. And by the way, James, before we get to the Eagles again, it was very weird because on ESPN2, I believe, late on Sunday night, they were showing the 30 for 30 about the Buffalo Bills going to and losing 4 straight Super Bowls. What if the prospect now becomes the Chiefs go to 4 in a row and win all 4?
It definitely could happen. There's no, unless Mahomes got hurt and he's out for the season, but I don't see any doubt with that happening, no.
James, we'll now go to the flip side of the coin from the Chiefs to the NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles, James, who also had a very much dominating season led by Saquon Barkley. Of course, James, this all came out, though, with the New York Giants in a way fumbling the bag. He goes to Philadelphia, and Barkley finishes oh so close to shattering Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record. Jalen Hurts has a great year despite having injuries, and the Eagles were very much a beat-up team. But they won the division title and, of course, blew out the Commanders in the NFC title game, putting up 55 points on the Washington defense. James, what an impressive year, though, for Nick Sirianni and this Eagles team, man. I think there was a lot of noise after last season. Sirianni going to get fired? Are they going to trade Jalen Hurts? And then all of a sudden they kind of, in a way, have Saquon Barkley land in their lap when the Giants, fumble the bag, as I said, and he goes there. And then all of a sudden, it's like he finds himself again, maybe that change of scenery. I always say, usually 9 times out of 10 works for a player. And him going to Philadelphia, in a way, I think probably garners MVP votes. So I doubt he wins the award, sadly, because I think it'll go to Lamar Jackson or Mahomes or Josh Allen. But, James, what a turnaround from a year prior for Philadelphia to this season when it comes, though, to, is Sirianni going to get fired because of his attitude last season? Or even how he may have popped off earlier in this season when it came to, the fan base on the road or what have you. And then, of course, Barkley comes, what he does, again, getting so close to Dickerson's single-season record. And, again, the tush push is still, I think, unbeaten in my opinion, whatever they call it now, the brotherly shove, whatever it is. But, James, thoughts about the Eagles and their very much, I think, kind of out of left field season in the NFC?
Okay, where to start? Obviously, everybody
start with Nick Sirianni. Why not?
Yeah, everybody wanted Detroit to make this because of their head coach and what he's been, wanting his team to do and how he talks about his team. Sirianni does it, but he does it his way. It's the Philly way, where you're going to get the booze, you give it back. You give crap back. So he's perfect for the job, literally. The GM is the same way. The players, there's certain players there that are the same way, like Jalen Carter. He takes nothing from anyone. He'll fight anyone, it seems like. So, okay, what was I going to say? With Saquon Barkley, and I heard Mira Reese, who I'm going to listen to for the Super Bowl, of course, the Eagles radio announcer with Mike Quick. I can't wait to listen to that more than, Brady and what's his name? Burkhardt. Yeah, I'm going to not be listening to that. But he mentioned last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago, Philadelphia is yelling over the river to Jersey or New York saying, "Thank you, Giants, for not keeping Saquon Barkley."
I'm gonna lose sleep if you don't re-sign Saquon.
That scene in, what was it, Hard Knocks with the Giants,
Yes.
where the GM says, "Oh no, don't worry. There's nothing that says Saquon's going to go to the Eagles." And the owner's like, "Hey, he's our most popular player. If he goes to the Eagles, I won't sleep well." Right there, when that happened, you knew if he goes to the Eagles, it's. And that GM didn't get fired, by the way, for the Giants. I thought he would have been gone.
Unbelievable.
I don't know what they're doing. I would have kept the head coach, of course, which they did, but not the GM after that. See, the camera rolls sometimes. Shouldn't say certain things or do certain things in front of it. Yeah, with Saquon Barkley, when you're going from a team that expects you to do everything to a team that says, "Hey, do what you can do. You have help around you." It's not a one-dimensional team where you have to carry the load. Even though if you want to, you can. But we have a passing game. We have a quarterback. We have a great defense. Chill. But he didn't chill. He ran for, 2,005 yards, 13 touchdowns. Again, 100 from the record for Eric Dickerson. That was in 84, so for LA, and he just showed that he had so much left in the tank. I think there was a debate about who's the best running back, and it's between Henry and Barkley just said, "Hey, I'm the best. There's no doubt about it.
I'm the best in the nation."
Yeah. So we were talking about Sirianni and the Gatorade bath from last week, and it was the two receivers. Brown and Devonta Smith, who delivered the Gatorade bath. And I just thought it was funny how that worked. I think A.J. Brown was also reading a book in the playoff game.
And yes, and the book went viral and everyone bought one in Philadelphia, it seemed like.
And it was a motivational book. It was just funny how that was going on. So they do their things, they do their stuff in just the weird methods, but they get it done. So the whole team is crazy. And you heard even in the middle of the season, I believe, Hurts and I think it was Devontae Smith had issues or something, but it seemed like that all went away. It was almost like a TL and McNabb thing, but it didn't go to that level at all, and everybody just seems hunky-dory. The thing with Jalen Hurts, you're always worried about him getting hurt, and he would run the ball too much. He would do the tush push or the Bradley shove, and you're always worried about him on the bottom of the pile. But the offensive line, I was so worried about when Kelsey retired, how they would do Jason Kelsey, right?
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah, Jason. He's crushing it on ESPN, but I was worried that they would, falter without the center, and they had a rookie one do well, but they still have Lane Johnson, the others on the line, just saying, "Hey, we're going to keep it moving, keep it pushing, literally." And the fact that they
good.
got that. So Washington had the funny thing where they kept trying to jump the gun, and was it offsides?
They
and
went
literally
3 straight penalties, and then the referee's like, "If you keep doing this, it's an automatic touchdown."
And I've never heard that before, but you get to the extreme of that rule, and it was the first time you heard that. And remember, a couple of years ago, they wanted to get rid of the tush push because of that, because it was like, hey, safety protocol, it's unfair to the defense, too many points are being scored anyway. So the Eagles, it's just funny. They're so unconventional, but they get it done. It's kind of a ragtag team in a way, but it's held together by Barkley. But everybody else has their own story, which is crazy. Their defense is really, really good, and that wasn't always the case. Secondary was giving up a lot of points last year. They made some moves, and they got younger, and they got better. So that was really good to see. So literally when it comes down to it, you have a team that's just, with the Chiefs, it's almost like the Dolphins with Shula, where it's just like everybody's on the damn same page. And we're going to win the game. We're going to execute the plays how it's drawn up. or on the tablet how it's made up. Eagles on the other side, it's like, whatever, we're just here. Give the ball to Saquon. If he doesn't get it, we'll just pass it. Or we'll do the tush push if we're needing a yard or something. So it's just funny. These are kind of polar opposites when it comes to these two teams, I think.
It will be interesting to see the game plans going into this one. That is for sure on Sunday for Super Bowl 59 from the Dome in New Orleans. Ultimately, James, your Super Bowl champion will be
Kansas City. It's always an awkward score if you ever notice the scores, like the last however many Super Bowls. It's always like 27-23 or 33-28 or something like that.
The time the Seahawks put up 50 on the Broncos.
Funny. I was just talking to somebody about that, where in the third quarter, I ended up going to my friend's apartment gym. I just didn't want to watch the game anymore. I wanted to go work out despite eating a bunch of pizza. And that was a really bad decision. But I worked out. Anyway, I'd say the Chiefs win. I know they're only favored by, I think, 1.5 points.
1.5.
Don't bet. Or 1.5, yeah. Feels like it's going to be a really, really close one. I hope Saquon is able to break some long runs. I would love if that happened. But both defenses are going to key on the run, but I think Barkley's going to have the advantage there. It's going to come down to interception, I guarantee you, late. And that's going to happen. The Chiefs will get a late interception. Anyway, I'll say it will be Chiefs. Chiefs 31 and the Eagles 27.
Okay, 31-27. I won't be watching the game anyway, so I'll go KC 30-27. Game-winning field goal by Harrison Butker like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's possible. With that, James, on Monday, of course, also on top of the fact that the Chiefs and the Eagles officially landing safely in New Orleans, of course, Monday also gave way to the annual State of the League address by NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell alongside Fox Sports moderator Kurt Menefee. Given the media, and among topics that were discussed on Monday, of course, he touched base on the ongoing investigation into Justin Tucker and alleged sexual misconduct towards at least 9 different massage therapists in the last couple of years. Also, James, he touched base, though, on the lingering cloud in the sky about the NFL going to an 18-game regular season. CBSSports.com writes that, surprisingly, Commissioner Goodell said that no formal discussions have been had regarding expanding the regular season by 1 game. Still, the commissioner said that that remains a possibility, though there is no current timetable on doing so. His quote reads in part, "If we do 18 and 2 preseason games might be a possibility. We know fans love football and they want more of it, but we have to be incredibly sensitive and smart with the balance and how we deal with that," open and close quote. James, what do you think would be the most logical way here? I have long believed that he can do an 18-game season, but you have to have 2 bye weeks. You can't let teams have 1 bye week. You know, maybe you do probably trim 1 more preseason. I think you still, James, have to keep 3 games minimum for the preseason. I think you need to have, all 3 games to still evaluate your roster, make those guys on the bubble at least get a fair chance to do so. But I do think if and when you go to 18 games, 2 bye weeks, no exceptions.
I would counterpoint with the 3 games and put it to 2 for preseason, because starters just play in the first one and they play maybe 2 series. Like I watched the Chiefs play, I want to say Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the first game of the season for preseason. And oh no, it wasn't. I'm sorry. No, the Hall of Fame game was. But anyway, yes. But you saw probably in that game where Caleb Williams didn't even play in that game on the Hall of Fame game. Usually rookies, they want to play right away, and that just doesn't happen anymore. So I think 2 preseason games was fine. And yeah, you got to have 2 bye weeks if you're going. I don't like 18 games. I don't even like
Neither do I.
I don't even like 17 games. But you have to have 2 byes. The interesting thing is, hey, how are you going to, make it happen where you have teams having week 4 off sometimes,
And then playing
and
8 or 9, 10 straight games after that.
I don't like that ever. And that happened to God, there was a team that was on the run and then they faltered off because of that this year. It was a young team too, and I can't remember who it was. But that bye week really hurt them because they didn't do well after that. I can't remember who it was. I think it was the Cardinals.
So, James, would you be in favor of, let's say, that you have to get at least to the halfway point? So, like maybe week 9, you start giving out bye weeks? Or is that too far in your mind for the first of 2 bye weeks?
It would have to be too far, though, because of the length of the schedule, though. So I would have to go probably the 5th week. And then
how about week 6?
I would love week 6, but I don't think it would get done like that because then the scheduling gets a little bit tougher. Then you have another bye week. And then let's say you're off the 5th week or the 6th week. You take week 13 off, but it's so late in the season already. So they're going to have to deal with that, obviously. And, man, luckily my team, they have bye weeks every week. So it doesn't matter if they're not going to win.
Speaking of your team, though, Commissioner Goodell was also asked on Monday, James, about Tom Brady's roles as both the Raiders owner and a Fox Sports analyst, and why the league is comfortable with Brady doing both. Goodell alluded to the rules that the NFL put in place in order to ensure that Tom's broadcasting duties do not give him an unfair advantage from a competitive standpoint. Goodell further told Kurt Menefee of Fox Sports that Tom has been incredibly cooperative. He calls frequently and asked if he's doing okay. I think he's serious that he separates the two and doesn't put the league or anyone in a position of conflict. I still, James, don't see that this is going to last. I think that Tom will be probably given an ultimatum like, okay, Tom, look, own the Raiders or do Fox Sports. You're not going to be able to do both, James. And I think about that because I think of Chick Hearn. Chick Hearn missed a Lakers game early in his career because of bad weather, leaving Illinois to go on the road. He was doing high school football, I think. And Jack Kent Cooke told him, look, Chick, the Lakers or this other crap. You can't do both, at the same time. But, James, Tom Brady, I think, is being restrained because of the ownership that he has of the Raiders and that he hasn't been able to be his full self. I know that early on that there was a lot of I think, unfair criticism that Tom had gotten as the new kid on the block. I know Greg Olson has been very, very kind of fed up when it's come to Brady jumping him as the number one guy on Fox. But I do think, though, James, that ultimately there's going to have to be an ultimatum, that someone's going to get ticked off with a NFL franchise about Brady's commentary in some capacity, or that the owners will probably call a special meeting of, hey, we have to have this guy either on Fox or a part of our group. He can't be a part of both. James, what do you think probably happens here in your mind?
I think it depends on the Super Bowl and how well he does with the commentary. If he does a bad job, I think eventually he'll quit that and just go back to or be, part of the ownership and, being more hands-on. I mean, he's already been really hands-on with the Raiders already this offseason. Firing AP and Telesco and bringing in Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly and the GM Spytek from
Raiders.
Ain't gonna help. They don't have a quarterback. They need a whole football team, other from Max Crosby. So I would love if he just did the Raider job because they need all the help they can get. And I can't believe I'm asking for Tom Brady's help. Ouch. Yeah, I think it just depends on how he does this Super Bowl. I know you were talking about the criticism, how it felt unfair. I could tell, though, he was kind of timid at, when the season first started with commentary.
Yeah, but of course, but James, who would not be, though,
right,
when you're a big name on the field, though, and transitioning to a new role? You're not in the trenches like you used to be. Like, I think Tom can offer so much more than what he's allowed to do with what he has. Again, he can't be in production meetings. He can't meet with any of the teams when they come in for a game. Like, there's all these loopholes and all these handcuffs and, shackles on him that I think it really, though, deprives fans like you, again, not me because I don't watch the NFL, of what Tom Brady's greatness could be as a analyst. But I do think, again, James, it's going to become an ultimatum. And I think though, he probably would want to go the route of just the ownership. I think he has more value there than talking on local Fox affiliates about a game. I don't think that he's really fully bought into it, though. I think he's been great, though, when he's been on with Colin Cowherd or on FS1 programming. But it still seems like he's had to hold back. And I think, though, that sadly, football fans like yourself are being deprived, though, of what Tom Brady's greatness could be as an analyst.
I could tell, though, he kind of warmed up to it like mid-season, and now he's throwing more, I would say, criticism, but it's not like over the top as if he was yelling at his teammates about something where he had to call a timeout because somebody wasn't set. It's nothing like that. And I think the other part, the other problem is that, he was allegedly caught cheating, with not Spygate, but the Deflategate and all that.
Spygate.
Yeah, so that's a cloud that the owners will remember, that, that'll be his demise in the booth reportedly. But yeah, I could tell that he got better as the season went on. What was the other thing you want to talk? The schedule.
Yeah, I'll get to the Chiefs. I'll get to the Chiefs in a second. It's the last one before we get to all the NBA and NHL trades. This is like a bit of a press row kind of point here, real quick. If Tom Brady exits Fox Sports, James, this becomes another domino that's fallen with Fox Sports in the last 2 weeks. There has been multiple reports from The Athletic and Front Office Sports of multiple sexual assault lawsuits put forth against, I believe, Charlie Dixon, who was in charge of FS1 programming, one that named Skip Bayless and Joy Taylor in one of them, and also named former Anaheim Ducks TV analyst on Fox Sports West and Prime Ticket, Julie Stewart-Binks, in another one that she filed from 2016 regarding Mr. Dixon and the FS1 upper brass during a Super Bowl party that they were at involving her and Rob Gronkowski and also him and also Dixon as well. So if Tom Brady somehow, James, exit Fox Sports, that's a huge blow financially, but also, James, is like the third major bad publicity story about Fox Sports in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I forgot all about that, and that was a couple of weeks ago. Joey Taylor was taking all the BS from social media and all that. But I'm pointing to my TV. I don't know why, but on YouTube, I've been watching old football games, right? Since there's been a week of without NFL football. Not even going to talk about the Pro Bowl games or whatever, but
76 points for the NFC.
Take
that, 1940 Chicago Bears.
The uprights are in the end zone, and they were H's.
They still beat the Redskins 73
to nothing. Oh wow! But what was I going? Yeah. So I've seen analysts from the past, and you could just tell how they started. Like John Madden wasn't as sharp as he was,
right?
When he first started with CBS, you could tell he was a little timid with Vin Scully. And then Jim Brown was doing the game with Vin Scully and George Allen, and you thought Jim Brown would be great because he was an actor, but it didn't really work out. I mean, the name is strong, but it just didn't work out with him in the booth. And there's been times like that. OJ being a sideline reporter, that was okay for a while, but yeah. In your profession, it's a tough job to be really good at it because you might not feel comfortable. And when you're not comfortable, you'll act timid. You'll be timid. And if you're talking about the game, you want to be playing it, but you can't act like it on TV. You have to be a professional with that. So I think Brady eventually he's going to shake out of this, but I think if the criticism gets worse and worse, it'll be he'll exit stage right. But yeah, that whole the lawsuits against the Fox Sports, it's growing and growing even more, and it almost feels like they're the four-letter network, but a lot of their shows have to go away as well, like it did on the four-letter network. Eventually something that goes up must come down. It feels like both networks are almost built the same in a way with their shows and their personalities, but it comes a time where, man, I think they just have to blow up everything in a way. I don't like any of their shows. I don't watch or listen to any of their shows really on FS1. But man, I know this sounds simple, but it's like, yeah, don't do anything. I don't care if you're drunk or whatever the case is. Just don't do anything unmorally. You know, treat people right. It just seems like the right thing to do. I don't care if you're in a position of power, whatever the case is. I'm interested to see if the details ever come out from that case. I know there's, alleged, documents or whatever, but I'm really wanting to see what comes out of that, because I hope Joy Taylor gets out of that okay. It's just a messy situation.
Yeah, and James, my main thing has been, before we get to the last NFL topic, was ESPN reportedly canceling Around the Horn. I have said a couple times on Press Row that show has made me appreciate ESPN, because from 2 o'clock till 3 o'clock is when I actually watch ESPN because of ATH and, of course, pardon the interruption. Again, I don't wake up at 7 a.m. to listen to Molly and Shannon and Stephen A. Smith and Mad Dog Russo yell at each other about the sport I don't care about before I've had my first sip of coffee in the morning. So, again, I think that both networks, but I think, though, James, FS1 struggled from the word go. I mean, I like I said, I love ambitious ideas, but they just didn't pan out. Regis Philbin had a talk show for 6 months, and they got rid of that show. They tried doing their version of SportsCenter called Fox Sports Live. They brought in Jay O'Toole and Dan from TSN, and they did their own top 10, and it was just called The One, the one top play of the night. I liked it. Katie Nolan had a program late at night.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, though, the only person that I really care to watch on FS1 is Colin Cowherd, and that's it. No one else.
Not even him for me. Yeah, Katie Nolan, I saw her on her YouTube channel. I think she's going to have her own show or something. But it was good to see her face again and hear her voice again. But yeah, FS1, it was always a struggle for some to find the channel at first. And then there was
FS1, then you had FS2, exactly.
Yeah. And then there were some events that would go overflow. So you have to go to FS2, and it was hard to find that for some.
FS2, Fox Business, one of the other Fox affiliate stations out there.
Yeah, so you mentioned it. Yeah, it was a
great idea.
Struggle from the start. Yeah.
With that, James, we'll get to the last one finally. Goodell also pushed back on the Chiefs getting favoritism, and also he called it ridiculous. The commissioner went on to great lengths to defend his officials, saying in part, this sort of reminds me a little bit of the script, that I write a script and that I have a script for the whole season. I think a lot of those theories are things that happen on social media, and they get a new life. Nobody wants it to be their theory. I think it reflects a lot of the fans' passion, and it's also a reminder for us how important refereeing and officiating is. I think the men and women who officiate our sport are outstanding. It's a ridiculous theory for anyone who might take it seriously. But at the end of the day, it's something we always have to continue to work on. How do we make our officiating better at all times? Open and close quote. James, the commissioner said it right. There's no script. This is not World Wrestling Entertainment that I went and saw for the first time in 17 years a couple of weeks ago in San Diego. There's no predetermined winners. I didn't know Tiffany Stratton would beat Bayley to retain the women's championship, or Kevin Owens would flatten Rey Mysterio in his hometown for the millionth time in the time I've been a wrestling fan, having been there. There's no predetermined winner of a Chiefs game. Though we can say maybe that calls do go their way, of maybe the first down that should have been given, though. At the end of the day, James, like I always say, don't let the officials get involved. Make the plays to win the game where you don't have to worry about them becoming a factor. So I think that Goodell, though, James, even though I don't know anything about the NFL, I know he's one of the worst commissioners in all of major pro sports right now in North America. But I think, James, that's a pretty nice mic drop right there for the commissioner to say that. Or is he just saying, James, to save face?
Well, it's funny. He used to be one of the worst. And somehow he's one of the best, and he gets paid like it. I think at first when he first came in, he was going after all the players that had issues off the field, and the players, of course, didn't like that. But somehow it all really smoothed out for him. Remember last year, if you recall, there was talk that the NFL was scripted. And the NFL made a whole commercial about the NFL being scripted for this season. And they had all these celebrities in it and whatnot, and old players. There's always some type of controversy that comes in, of course. And when it's the Chiefs, when it's Taylor Swift involved with Kelsey and Mahomes, there's talk that, yes, it is all fixed for them to win. The popular gets to win. Like the Lakers, the Yankees, they all get to win. The most popular goes, no matter what. And if you have an untimed third down, or a do-over third down like you did a couple years ago against Cincinnati, or if you have a phantom holding call, or in the Super Bowl 2 years ago against Philadelphia, or you have a sideline issue with Pat Mahomes and he flops, you have to call that, I guess.
Back, flop.
Sometimes you have to, I don't know. That's a whole nother thing for the rules committee to go through. Which, by the way,
yes, I was going to say that Goodell will in fact bring it up to the competition committee about flopping in the NFL.
And then also, I was going to mention how instead of having the chain gain, they want to have the device in the ball to track, hey, did they get a first down, or wherever they mark it.
Yeah, and there was talk of soccer over in Europe, James, going to, what do they call it? I think it was called GLT, goal line technology, where all the ball, like a microchip in the ball, and they would have sensors in the goalposts and on the goal line. And once the ball breaks the plane of the goal line, like it flashes, hey, we have a good goal on the play, or a goal, was scored.
It sounds so simple, but everyone's scared to bring it in just because of tradition. But it helps because maybe Josh Allen did get that first down a couple of weeks ago.
I've been a proponent, James, that you could easily do what tennis does with their in and out challenge system of doing something like that with like the Sky Ref. That you could do that as well with like the first down technology, the FDT, by having, a chip in the ball and have the yards to gain. If the ball crosses that, it flashes or it does something, like maybe the referees put a belt pack on like they do with their microphone to talk to the crowd and make their calls, like put like a basketball referee style belt pack sensor that could vibrate and say, no, the ball's across for a first down or for a touchdown.
The only thing is, would it not vibrate at a perfect time for a certain team? That's the problem with it. So
that's why I think you have another referee, just like in basketball, James, because I've been a part of college basketball my whole entire announcing career. And I obviously have been there when I hear the referees do their tests, because they have the belt packs on their belts that they clip, or they push a button to start or stop the clock when they call a foul. I've been there where they test it, and the shot clock operator looks at a little screen that is for the precision time belt packs, and they will go like this when they are collaborated and they're good to go. Where I think you would have a referee sitting in the replay box in the stadium, and they look at that device. And if it doesn't vibrate, if it vibrates, they can even, in a way, like the replay official can buzz down saying, hey, you better review this play.
Yeah, I'm in
it's simple,
favor
but
for
it's
all of
not
that.
Tradition. Exactly.
Right.
It's so simple, yet it's so far.
I'm in favor for all of the new stuff just to get it right. And just because the NFL, has to say, hey, we're a sport, we're not an entertainment. By the way, I did catch some of that Royal Rumble. I happened to be out with friends, and it happened to be at the pizza parlor, and I didn't care for it anyway because it's all entertainment.
That's scripted. Professional sports is not, like the commissioner said.
Sure.
Speaking, by the way, of the Royal Rumble, congrats to our wrestling pals here on the network. 2,000 views on the Royal Rumble live stream that they did on Saturday. here on Coast to Coast. So bravo to Chris, Brandon, and the rest of our wrestling gang for 2,000 views on Facebook for the Royal Rumble PLE stream here on C2C. All right, James, ready to talk some trades? Yeah, you ready for this crap? Well, it happened, folks. Let's go now to our NBA and NHL trade board, of course, James. Saturday night, I went out after working swim and dive in men's college basketball to watch the Seals play lacrosse. Went to Chili's like I usually do by the sports arena. And then, James, this bombshell drops at the bar. The Mavericks, Lakers, and Jazz finish off a three-team trade, and arguably, James, maybe the heister trade of the NBA century. The Mavericks get Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick from the Lakers, who get 25-year-old budding star Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris, while the Jazz got sucked in to getting former Laker draft pick Jalen Hood-Schifino, and also two picks, one of which came from the L.A. Clippers. James, I think we all agree that we're all still reeling 48 hours after the trade was made. This feels like a white flag for Dallas. Pretty sexy for the Lakers, but there's a lot of question marks, though, and the Jazz got roped in for a couple of picks and for Jalen Hood-Schifino. James, where do you want to start?
Man, okay, just quickly with the Jazz, you could just tell they just wanted something out of it, and the Lakers and Mavericks needed a third wheel to get in there awkwardly, and the Jazz were there. And I read about Jalen Hood-Schifino, how he was the Lakers trade up, I think, to get him, and he wasn't any good at all from 2021. So the Jazz got what they got from it, luckily. Oh, God, where do I start? The Lakers, okay. I didn't see this coming. I thought
Nobody did.
Yeah, Saturday I was hanging out playing Mario Party with some friends, and I didn't know how to play that thing. I was just rolling along with that. It wasn't my turn, so I take a look at my phone, look at my Instagram reel, and all of a sudden Shams has this story. I'm like, whoa, somebody got hacked. Whoa.
Everyone thought that too. Even I thought the same thing.
He got hacked. There's no way. 2K wouldn't even allow this. Hold on. And then I saw that where the Lakers traded Anthony Davis, who I thought would be there for his whole career, unless he left, right? It would be a thing that, he would play out his contract, or he would just ask to be traded somewhere. In this case, he wasn't asked to be traded. He just was traded. The only thing is, too, I'm wondering, did LeBron have a hand in it? Did LeBron... Now, I noticed every time they played the Mavericks, the Lakers, and LeBron against Dallas, they would always have a nice, dap up and conversation, Luka and LeBron. But I never thought they would be teammates. I just thought, okay, they're going to, have fun at the All-Star game or something. Or, LeBron just admires how Luka plays and knows that's one of the future players that'll carry the torch for the league, right? I never thought they would be teammates. So that was a shocker. So Luka goes there. And then with Max Christie, I kind of felt bad for him because after the game on Saturday against the New York Knicks, they kind of asked him how the season was going. He was talking about, how it was going and then how it would be later on, how he's getting more mature with the team and how his role is going to be. He feels like it's getting bigger with the team. And all of a sudden, an hour later, he's gone from the team. It's a business, but it's a cruel business. And then the 2029 first-round pick that Dallas got, okay, that's fine. But like you said, they got bamboozled because that's not a really even trade. For a 25-year-old Luka Doncic, you have to get at least 2 or 3 first-round picks. You have to get 3 picks. I know some idiot that we know kept saying for Oklahoma City, in order to, step up their process, they would have to trade for Luka Doncic. And they have all those picks, for Oklahoma City, and they could do that. But I thought, no, that would never, ever happen. And Dallas does this for just one pick, one first-round pick.
And they could have,
just
and honestly, James, they could have gotten the Lakers 2031 first round pick, but the Lakers said no.
And they still agreed to. Oh, I hate this. Max Kleber, great 3-point shooter. He's like that Euro type where he won't go inside. He's going to stay inside. He won't rebound for you, which the Lakers said they needed a big man who rebounds. Even Anthony Davis said, yeah, we could get some help getting a true center so I could play power forward in my real position. Man, he's the one getting traded. It's just... It's so awkward, always with the Lakers. Markieff Morris, he goes from every city. He's almost like Jim Jackson, almost. So yeah, I'm just shocked. And then with Dallas, you saw the phony protests that were outside American Airlines.
It's actually pretty funny. The day of a Stars home game too, nonetheless.
Really? Yikes.
Yes.
Arena or center? I think it's center.
American Airlines Center.
Yeah, center. Arena was the one in Miami, but yeah, they were out there, and this one dude kept talking all the time. They had a casket out there. They were saying sell the team, and I forgot for a little bit that Cuban sold, I think, his part, but he still gets like season tickets.
But he's no longer part of basketball ops either.
That's the problem. This would never happen under the under Cuban. It happened under the new ownership that's like a Las Vegas kind of group where I guess in Vegas they bet a lot and they gamble a lot. And they did this with Dallas. And Nico Harrison, who I read is a GM, of course, of Dallas. I read that he was...
Oh, and he is getting hammered.
Yeah. So he was part of the Nike group that could have got Stephen Curry to go to Nike. Instead, Curry goes to Under Armour.
And also that Nico Harrison also represented some guy named Kobe Bryant, who happened to play for the Los Angeles Lakers. Collusion.
That sounds like it. I wouldn't be shocked if... well, I don't know who would start the collusion lawsuit, but...
And also, I've heard some small rumblings from a friend of mine who now works with the Las Vegas Aviators. He says, don't be surprised if the Adelson family tries to move the Mavericks out of Dallas.
Oh, hell Vegas. No. Oh, my God.
If they get full ownership of the franchise. And I'm like, I don't know about it. I don't buy that one bit.
Oh, my God. You can't move the Mavericks out of Dallas. The Dirk statue's there. And I remember the fans saying... Luka's supposed to have a statue right there next to Dirk. There were concerns with Luka about his body looking like mine at a certain time. And, of course, he's injured right now. I forgot the injury. But I think about a month ago, he was on the scooter where he was scooting around and off the court and on the court. So he's not even going to play with the Lakers right now, I think, for another month or so, I want to say.
At least.
Yeah, so it's just awkward as hell. The Lakers still have that 31 first-round pick to get a big man. I heard Vucevic, but he's a finesse big man. So...
I've also heard Jonas Valanciunas. I've heard Kessel, the center from Utah, might be in the mix as well, apparently.
He's like a stretch four. He's not even a center. Yeah, Valanciunas, I've loved him, and I felt bad when he got. I don't know if he got traded to the Wizards or he signed with Washington.
He signed with Washington for like 3 years and got paid like $60 million.
That's why I wanted him to leave there. Everybody leave Washington. So they're still not going to get what they need. They're going to have to rely on Jackson Hayes if they want it. And I said play him, and they did well last year with him in the starting lineup. But it leaves like a gaping hole in the middle now without AD, who was having a career year. Boy, that All-Star game is going to be awkward, ain't it?
Very much so. Thankfully, they're wearing West, I think, and not their regular jerseys, I think.
Still.
Even with the convoluted new Callum McClurg NBA Cup style All-Star game that we're having this year.
Yeah, I got to look into that. Dallas, it just feels like one of those moves that like kill a franchise that just says, okay, you better have somebody behind Luka that is ready to go, like Portland did, right? With how they traded Lillard, they had to. But they had Anthony Simons right there in the
Yes.
waiting, and he's been putting up great numbers. For Dallas, I don't even see anybody that could even rival Luka on the team other from Kyrie Irving. Maybe they feel like, okay, we're just going to ride with Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis, and we'll go from there. But hearing that Dallas didn't like the conditioning efforts of Luka, that's kind of a concern, I think, for Laker fans. But you would think that, okay, LeBron's going to get him into shape, and playing for the Lakers is a certain standard that comes with that. That Luka's not going to let Kobe down. He's not going to let the franchise down. So it should work out for the Lakers, but I don't think for a championship. I think Oklahoma's still too deep, but this might propel them to, I would say, second round of conference finals. I don't know. I don't trust Memphis or Houston or anybody like that. And remember, Dallas just went to the finals last year with Luka, so I wouldn't even be surprised if we see Lakers Celtics this year in the finals. But I still think OKC will go and win it. But yeah, this trade happened, and for it to happen on a Saturday night, right after the game like that, it was just horrible timing and just a horrible trade for the Mavs fans. And you just hope that they have something up their sleeve for free agency next year, or else they're going to be down for a while, especially if AD gets hurt or if he requests a trade out. It kills the Mavericks. It really does.
Yeah, James, I think that you're spot on everything, and I think that I saw something that yesterday, or when the trade was made, it was on the same day where the Lakers made that trade for Pau Gasol, I believe. So the cruel irony, I think, of that being a thing on February 1st when it comes to the trades being made by the Lakers to get Gasol and now getting Luka. James, I might be a little bit, this might be a little bit, out of bounds or stupid. Why do I feel like, though, both teams won this trade in some very small way? Though I think the balance of power shifts to the Lakers. But there is, though, a little bit of some concern I have, though. Luka's not going to be able to get a supermax contract when he goes to the Lakers because of where the Lakers are with the cap. But also, if he doesn't re-sign after 2026, he's out of there. It's you kind of get a half a season, maybe one full year with him.
Yeah.
What is your plan if that happens? Now, I mean, now, James, we've had the other report come out. Golden State has called up Butler, Durant, LeBron James has been mentioned too in those trade talks, maybe. So, could it be that Luka comes in and LeBron says, "Hey, you guys are fine. You have to worry about the post LeBron life now. I'm going to Golden State." But at the end of the day, though, Dallas and the Lakers, I think, James, both are in the same boat. They both were frustrated and ticked off by what they thought were two franchise superstars. I think the Lakers legitimately were ticked off by Anthony Davis always being injured, sadly. I know you really can't plan for injuries. And I think Dallas had a bigger gripe with Luka Doncic for what you mentioned, though, the weight. A 6'6" guard can't be weighing 260 or 270 as he's not listed properly in the media guide. I remember, James, if you falsified guys' records in the media guide, you would get fined if you actually did that. So the Mavericks have been kind of getting away with that. But also, James, one tidbit that I have not heard anyone bring up, but I have brought up here in the past. Luka's on-court attitude is awful. Like I said on here a while back, I like his game. I want to fully like Luka Doncic, but I can't respect a guy like him or even LeBron who always looks at the refs like, where the hell's the foul at? He kicked me in the nuts when I was making the shot. That's the part that I think Luka needs to snap out of eventually. I think, though, going to the Lakers, they won't put up with that BS. LeBron may put up with it, though, but I still think, though, that's a franchise you don't act in that fashion. Maybe got away with it in Dallas, though. But I think, though, that there was mutual feelings. Mavericks were ticked off with Luka, on-court antics, out of shape, his conditioning. Let's also, James, remember, too, I think opening night, Luka couldn't handle being chirped at by a Suns fan. He asked that fan to be kicked out of the arena because of his conditioning. The Lakers, I think, though I know that they loved AD, I think they were getting a little tired, though, of the ongoing injury problems, I think. I do think, though, that even though you can't plan for them, though, it does hamper the club, though, when you're always playing the backup center. And I think the Lakers also, in a way, kind of do lose a little bit because, like you said, though, who's guarding the rim, and will Luka actually play defense? Now, I think, James, the reason why, though, that the Lakers did not put both trade chips or both draft picks in that trade package, they're saving that one, I think, for their next move, which needs to come by the 6th at the deadline, where I think they're going to have to get a center. And, I even thought, maybe Hachimura could play center because I've seen him play center in college at Gonzaga. I still think, though, he'd be very much undersized. Maybe I think James a bit overwhelmed having to play down low at the NBA level because he's not dominating guys from USD or LMU or guys he could own in the West Coast Conference like he did back in college. But I do think, though, James, I think this checks out for both teams, though. But Dallas, I think, though, man, how do you go from being 3 wins away from an NBA title to now dealing away the face of the franchise? How can you in Dallas, Texas, Nico Harrison, the front office, the ownership, how can you face your fan base now? How can you face your fan base and face the Dallas Morning News, KRLD radio down there? How can you possibly try to paint a narrative or that this is a great day for Dallas Mavericks basketball? A very, I think, proud franchise, not iconic, but a very proud, well-respected club because of Dirk, because of what Mark Cuban had done to make the Mavericks into a winning ball club and their very, good success. How can you as an organization look your fans in the mirror and say, we dealt away a 25-year-old budding star because we were ticked off about his weight and his ego and attitude for a 32-year-old beat-up, banged-up, shoot and spit out Anthony Davis in a first-round pick? I think, James, Dallas, though I think both teams win it. The Mavericks, I think, James, they can't show their faces for the remainder of the season. I think, James, it proves me right. They were down 49-10 after the first quarter in Cleveland on Sunday.
I read that, yeah. It kills the franchise. You're lucky to have Kyrie Irving, unless he gets, froggy and he wants to leap somewhere else. Yeah, with the Lakers and AD, I just remember Laker fans cringing every time he would fall.
Oh, without a doubt.
He would
I agree.
get up slow, and you think, okay, it's probably done for the game. And then he would come back and block 5 more shots and grab 10 more rebounds and score 20 more points and act like nothing happened. But eventually, like we've seen it in the past, it comes back to hurt him, and he's out for a couple of months when you really need him. I'll tell you what, Max Christie better be an all-star sometime soon. I know they have role pieces with the Mavericks. Maxey is a big loss, though. I think he spreads the floor so much. You forget. I forgot about Klay Thompson being there. I guess that helps as well.
Yeah, but he's a shell of himself, James. Give me a break.
Right. No, just with Kyrie or Anthony penetrating and kick it out to him, that's it. That's all you could do with him. But man, with the Lakers, this is a big opportunity for Jackson Hayes, though. There's not many skilled centers out there. When it comes to old-fashioned centers, there's Zubac. That's pretty much it.
Maybe Giannis.
I consider him a power forward, though. I don't know why. Because when I think of center, I think Zubac or the old type of centers, where they only did a couple of things. They didn't shoot threes. Cat's is not a center to me.
Post play, dunks, rebounding,
Embiid isn't a center
shots.
To me. They're all power forwards to me, other from Zubac. It literally, and then you have Brandon Clark of Memphis, where you could tell, okay, he's a center, and Steven Adams, he's a center because he doesn't shoot from 3. So I think the Lakers are just banking on just shooting the threes and getting the long rebounds. Because guards are getting rebounds nowadays like nothing when they never got rebounds. So they're just banking on guarding the 3 and rebounding from the 3, and that's it. Maybe they'll just go with Jackson Hayes. Who knows? But, yeah, that shook up everything. And then, of course, there was more.
Oh, yeah, but wait, there's more, as Billy Mays would say. The Spurs, Kings, and Bulls pulled the trigger on a 3-team trade. Stay with us, folks. This is very, very confusing what happens here. But De'Aaron Fox, a Katy, Texas native, after being born in New Orleans, goes to the hometown San Antonio Spurs alongside Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings get a haul of a package here from the Bulls and from the Spurs and also the Nuggets and Wolves. They get guard Zach LaVine, a 2025 first-round pick and second-round pick via the Hornets and the Bulls, a 2027 first-round pick from the Spurs, 2 second-round picks and 28 from the Bulls and the Nuggets, and then a 2031 first-round pick via the Minnesota Timberwolves, while the Bulls get Zach Collins, Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, and the Spurs' first-round pick. James, it was very much talked about in the rumor circle about Fox going to the Spurs. There's talks about maybe the Lakers, maybe elsewhere. But the Spurs, though, were like number one on everyone's list, though. And then we did some digging, though, that he was born in New Orleans, but went to high school in Katy, Texas, and went to Kentucky to play for Coach John Calipari. So the Spurs get another star alongside Wembanyama. Don't touch the rest of their core. Keep, I think, pretty much all their assets in regards to trade chips for draft picks. The Kings, though, I want to kind of talk about them a little bit later in the 7 here. They do, though, get Zach LaVine, though, from, out of UCLA. And they also stockpile multiple picks, though, in the next about 5 to 6 seasons, while the Bulls can get 3 players in 1 pick. So, James, the Spurs all of a sudden, man, might be being a bit of a bigger blip on the radar now. It looks like in the Western Conference, though. I think they're still a year away, though. But they're coming out swinging here finally after a very dismal year in 2023, 2024.
Yeah, okay, for the San Antonio Spurs, obviously lighting the state of Texas up with basketball fever. Other from Dallas now, but you have Oklahoma City across the border there. Yeah, that's what I was meaning. Like the whole state is really good. The whole area, other from New Orleans and Dallas. You have Houston, you have Oklahoma City, and now you have San Antonio here, possibly getting back to the way they were. With Wemby, I was hearing, hey, people want to play with him. They want to play alongside him. He's a marvel. He's a beast, and everybody wants to play alongside of him. And obviously, De'Aaron Fox, being a Texas native at one point, wanted to be there, wanted to be back home in a way. He's going to wear number 4, by the way, for his wife who played basketball at Texas Tech. She wore number 4, so that's why you'll
Raiders.
That's why you'll see number 4 for Fox. Okay, yeah, Jordan McLaughlin, he's a backup point guard out of SC, but with Fox, I'm just shocked that the Spurs didn't have to give up Vassell or Castle or Harrison Barnes or Chris Paul even. They didn't have to give up.
There was some talk about Paul and Barnes maybe being in the rumor mill at one point.
I thought if they wanted to ever speed up the process, at least 2 of those players, 2 out of the 4 would have to go, right? But I don't know what the NBA GMs are doing. I think they're being soft. It feels like these GMs, they're just saying, "Hey, we'll get some kickback from it one day." But obviously that's not happening. So the Spurs get really, really lucky. I mean, really fleeced everybody in this trade here. Okay, I'll just start off with the Bulls here. They really wanted to get rid of Zach LaVine for at least 3 to 4 years.
Like 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah. They knew that he was a great scoring talent, but he brought nothing defensively. He was a liability, and then he was a cancer in the locker room and to certain coaches. He really didn't get along with certain coaches. There was that one that didn't like him scoring so much. Even pointed and yelled at the scoreboard and say, "Hey, I have 50 points. Pass me the damn ball." And then, yeah, the injuries were always a thing. He was never worth, no one ever is, but he was never worth his max deal because he would miss literally
half the year.
A long time a year, yeah, at least half of the years. They've been to, I think, 1 playoff with him in 2021, I want to say, and that's been it. So him and DeRozan, back together in Sacramento, it just feels like feels like that again. With the Bulls, though, Zach Collins, he's like a rebounder enforcer, but he doesn't bring anything really offensively. Kevin Huerter is a good spot-up three-point shooter, but Kobe White's hurt, I think, for the Bulls, so I don't know who's going to get him the ball there. It doesn't really matter. Trey Jones, I'm trying to remember who that is, but I don't. But the first-round pick I'm interested in because they really need that to be something via the Spurs there. We'll see what happens with that. So they get 2 first-round picks there due to the Bulls in the upcoming draft. So that's going to be something. Okay, the Sacramento Kings, getting Levine and putting him with DeRozan.
Some familiarity.
Yeah, but it just feels like you're the Bulls. But you have a history of not getting to the playoffs as much. And I wouldn't even rule out Sabonis doesn't get traded. I think there's a chance he does get traded. 50-50 chance he gets traded by the deadline. It just feels like the Kings are kind of restarting again after just one playoff appearance after all those years missing it. I think it was 18 years.
Yeah, it was the longest active drought in the NBA.
Yeah, it just feels like they're almost getting back to that. They feel comfortable with being a play-in team or borderline play-in team. It feels like with this move, and again, I think Sabonis is he's on a lot of radars to go somewhere else. Even a reunion in OKC, I could kind of see that with Sabonis. If they need scoring up front, that could be a possible thing. But man, with the Kings, if you're a King or a Maverick fan, you just feel like crap the last couple of days from these trades that y'all made. Yeah, it doesn't really help the Kings this year. I feel like they're just going to falter the Bulls even more. With the Spurs, I know they're a game under 500. They're borderline, I think, in the play-in tournament, I want to say.
They probably are.
I think they're going to get into that play-in tournament. It'd be interesting if they were able to make a run, at least get out of the first round. I think would be awesome. And you have Chris Paul there who can kind of make that happen. Okay, they're
the Spurs are
4 games out.
4 games out behind Golden State and Phoenix.
And they've lost 2 straight coming in. The Blazers, nobody's talking about them. They've won 4 in a row. But yeah, they could have a chance. They just got to leap the Warriors and the Suns, who have, their own trades to do. But look who's 9-10, or I'm sorry, 8-9, are the Kings and Mavericks. You expect them to start to fall out, honestly. So the Spurs could get that, and depending on the Warriors, whatever they want to get, they can try to get in there. I expect the Suns to stay in there, but yeah, there might be some movement down low there. But the Spurs, man, I would love if they were able to get in and make some noise at least, or take the first round to 7 games. I think it'd be great to see Chris Paul do that again. Remember, in the bubble, he had a great run with the Thunder, and they did lose to the Houston Rockets in the first round, but it was a really entertaining series in the bubble. I would love to see Chris Paul go out if he retires this year and make the playoffs. I think that would be a cool goal for him. And with Popovich, I don't know if he'll come back this year, but I think that would be cool. So yeah, good for Fox. He got what he wanted, but I'm just shocked again by what the Kings and Mavs had done the last 2 days.
Yeah, James, I wanted to kind of go back to the well a bit. Like I just said, about 5 minutes ago, when it came to, the Mavericks, how can you possibly face your franchise fan base right now with, again, trading away a 25-year-old superstar despite the baggage, as we've been hearing across, airwaves today, James, on this Monday. I also, James, put the Sacramento Kings in that same exact boat. How can you, as a franchise who broke that 18-year playoff drought, and you extend Mike Brown, but because of now a traded superstar having beef with the head coach, you elect to fire a one-time or multiple time and a fairly recent coach of the year because now the departed superstar didn't get along with them. How's Doug Christie working out for Sacramento right now? Give me a break. So again, how can the Kings and the Mavericks right now, how do you as mid-major, small market NBA markets, how do you face your fan base? I just don't understand, though, that when you kind of, in a way, James, go all in to get to the postseason or get to the finals, though, then all of a sudden, because of budgetary reasonings, you make moves like this. I just don't understand it. And I really think that the Kings and the Mavericks, they owe the fan base like an apology. Like they really do. And I know that won't happen, James, but the fan base deserves better. Again, the Mavericks were 3 wins away from their second NBA title in franchise history. I know the Kings have not won a title since I think they were in Omaha, I believe, or in Kansas City at one point in time. And they've, talked about going back to the red and powder blue glory days of the franchise or whatnot. But still, this is a organization, James, that really is going back in the wrong direction, back to old Sacramento habits. As much as I would love, as much as I can say about, old Padre habits of how they've been over the offseason, this smells like old Sacramento habits of, hey, we got a great player, but, we can't afford to pay him, so we got to trade him for, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks and a veteran player who also is a cancer in the locker room. Like, give me a break.
I was just thinking about, I forgot to talk about the picks here that Sacramento gets via Charlotte. That could be a big one there. That could be a lottery one.
Go in the favor of
right.
Charlotte.
Right. You got to hope you get
right
top
now.
3.
It's probably going to be the Wizards who might break the 73 losses by the 76ers.
It's the Cooper Flag sweepstakes, by the way. You get the first round pick in 2027 via the Spurs. And then you get the first pick from Minnesota in 2031, excuse me. I saw a comment about, what Anthony Edwards said about, how do you trade a 25-year-old superstar? It wouldn't be me. I think he said something like that. And I was just thinking, Minnesota would make this move. I mean, you saw them make the weirdest trade, just before I think training camp started with the Knicks.
The Cat trade to the Knicks.
Yeah, with the Cat going there and Randall coming back, and now they want to trade Randall, and he doesn't want to be there. I could see Minnesota making this move with Edwards in a couple of years. I really can.
And I would say, James, it's for the same damn reasons we just listed about 10 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. The on-court attitude, the fines because of the obscene gestures. He can't keep his trap shut when it comes to calls or taunting the other team. And I think that that's 2 reasons, James. People can say what they want about, players and their on-court demeanor. That does, in a way, hurt players' reputations when they have been a repeat offender like Edwards of always getting fined for flapping his gums and, giving the bird to fans in the third row behind the bench. Like, I agree. If you keep this crap up, Anthony Edwards, you're out of Minnesota pretty soon and probably out of a job.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention as well, or a couple of things. With Luka Doncic, they said he reached up to 270 pounds. The fact that he's 6'7", it didn't seem like a issue.
And
but
he's
you
a
could
guard.
Tell. I mean, hey, if Magic is whatever he was, but he was 6'9",
6'10". He was never that bloated until he came back from the HIV diagnosis in '97.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he was taller, and then he was definitely more skilled.
And then he bought all those 24-hour fitness locations and got himself back into shape too that way.
Yeah. Still going. With Luka, though, you could tell he's gotten bigger. You could definitely tell from what you saw.
And again, the injury hasn't helped.
Yeah, and maybe he's
Which,
just
again, in a way, goes to my point that the Mavericks began to get pissed off about his weight, his conditioning. And again, I get more ticked off, though, at a guy like him and even LeBron again. Hey, where's the foul? I got punched in the face and I made the basket.
It's funny, those two together, LeBron and Luka, man.
It's going to be a damn freaking soap opera on NBC that's going to be better than Days of Our Lives pretty soon.
And then the talk about, hey, who's going to get the ball late? Is LeBron going to kick it
Thank
out
you.
to
Thank you very much.
Luka?
I literally wrote that into Lee Hacksaw Hamilton today, and it didn't get brought up. But I said, who in the HE double hockey stick is going to take the game-winning shot, LeBron or Luke? And if someone misses it, the other guy's going to get blamed for not taking the shot.
Definitely. And then one quick thing with the LA Clippers. On February 1st, I guess before the Laker trade happened, they made a couple of one good trade. They got rid of Mo Bamba, who I saw in person here in Oceanside.
Mo Bamba. Love that name.
He just, God, he got the disease that everybody else has, where he's shooting threes, and instead he should get his ass down there and post up and slam dunk.
We just called load management disease.
Just three disease, I would call it. PJ Tucker, who didn't want to be with the Clippers, he played last year, and then he just became a cancer in the last 2 years in training camp. He hasn't played a game this year, but he's James Harden's best friend, and watches and holds his shoes, I guess. But they went to Utah, have fun there. And the Clippers, they were able to get back Patty Mills, who I love. He's a great veteran point guard. And then Drew Eubanks is a good tall three-point shooter. So the Clippers got two good players, two usable players, instead of two that aren't really going to be anything. And I really like that, because usually the Clippers make awful trade deadline deals, like the last 4 years. But hopefully they don't do anything else. Hopefully they keep who they have intact. They don't do something stupid. But yeah, at least the Clippers made something happen the last, or I should say on the weekend there. So yeah, that's been it.
Yeah, so again, folks, two major trades in the NBA, but we're not done, as we're now going to move over to the NHL trade board. We had our own major trade go down over the course of the weekend between the Carolina Hurricanes, the Colorado Avalanche, and the Chicago Blackhawks got roped in, a la playing the third wheel like the Utah Jazz. But this was a very much unforeseen trade, much like Luka Doncic. This is our own version of that trade in the NHL, folks. The Carolina Hurricanes loaded up big time by getting Avalanche star forward Mikko Rantanen from Colorado, and got journeyman former number one pick Taylor Hall from Chicago, and also prospect Nils Juntorp as well from the Blackhawks. The Avalanche, though, got some pretty nice returns, though. They got Jack Drury and high-flying sensation Martin Necas from Carolina, while they also snagged 2 picks from the Hurricanes in round 2 and 4 of the 25 and 26 drafts. For the Blackhawks, they were only here to get breadcrumbs of getting a third-round pick from the Hurricanes. And, oh, by the way, you're on the hook for half of salary from either Taylor Hall or from Mikko Rantanen. But, James, part of the reason, though, why this trade happened, I pull up a story here, a little quick snippet here from the Athletics' Chris Johnston. It was no secret, though, in league circles that talks were not going well with the Avalanche on re-signing Rantanen to an extension, but it wasn't nearly so widely known that the perennial contender might be willing to part with a piece of their foundation. But as news of the 3-team trade shook out involving Rantanen, the reaction from other teams and executives ranged from shocked to stunned, so I'm not completely surprised, but we did not hear a thing whatsoever, open and close quote. So, James, it all boils down, though, my man, to the NHL salary cap, which, by the way, per reports, is going to be bumped up to a staggering $115 million in 3 years. So, James, this is a very much a Luka-style trade. Again, 3 teams are involved. Big pieces are going, my man, though. Again, Rantanen, bona fide 30, 40 goal scorer. Taylor Hall, journeyman, number one pick. He's bounced around for a long time. Colorado, though, still gets Jack Drury, proven player for them. Martin Necas, again, who had lit it up for like 15 or 16 straight games with points and a couple of draft picks. And sadly, though, James, the Blackhawks got roped in like the Jazz for a third-round pick, and they still retain salary of 50% of one of those 2 contracts on the board. Yikes.
I recognize 2 of those names. I do love the Nils Juntorp name. I've never heard that before, but that's a cool-ass name. Okay, does this help the Avalanche this year, or are you looking for next year? The same thing with the Blackhawks. Are they just in the middle of like a rebuild, and it's
They
taking a
are
while.
James between Chicago and the Sharks. They are right now like at the very bottom of rebuilds. Connor Bedard has had another good year for Chicago, but they just don't have enough guys around him. They have a lot of guys who will go out there and bang, and beat the crap out of people. They get near Connor Bedard, but they're not scoring. And I think them and the Sharks are both 1-2 for the worst records right now in the Western Conference. And this might be just the start of like maybe more veterans getting moved from Chicago. And Taylor Hall had been there for a bit, but they just have not been firing whatsoever on cylinders. But when it comes to the Avalanche, though, like the report from Chris Johnson kind of said, though, they were against the cap here. Like they weren't going to be able to re-sign Rantanen into a long-term extension of 8 years and so much of AAV. So they had to kind of in a way dump the salary, sadly. But at the end of the day, though, they still come away though with 2 picks though, and 2 established names though, who have been kind of in a way helping Carolina kind of get themselves back on track though in a very somewhat rugged Eastern Conference playoff picture right now. But Carolina, though, I think, James, this was their move though to kind of in a way saying we're going all in. They have been so close these past, I'd say, 4 years, maybe 5 years. Ron Brind'Amour's done a great job down there with what he's had to work with as the coach, though. But now getting Rantanen to go and add on more firepower to their offense, though, that is critical, though. Freddie Anderson's playing at an all-time great level, I think, though, coming off of blood clot issues he's had, though, and injury problems, that I think this might finally push them over the hill or over the cliff finally in the East, though. But it's still very, very, rugged out there. But this, I think, benefits everybody. But against Chicago, I think, James, they're just kind of here trying to, get pieces together for next year's draft, it looks like.
Sounds like the Utah Jazz. Yeah, that's what I was hoping for Carolina. They had a fun team with their, dances after the game and all that when they won. And I was just hoping they would somehow make a dent in that Eastern Conference. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, and they're still right now holding their own. I believe they're in the top 8 running right now for a playoff spot. I think they're at least in the top 3 of their division. So definitely the Canes come away looking great. Colorado as well, though. Again, they're no slouches here. They're getting Jack Drury and also a very red-hot Martin Necas, who has just been tearing it up this season. With that, James, more from the NHL, my man. Another brief 2-player trade and a couple of picks going by way of the Flyers and Flames. They picked up 2 very kind of in a way growing prospects in the Calgary pipeline, though. Andre Kuzmensko and Jacob Patellier, with 2 other picks going the way of Philadelphia in both 25 and 28, while the Flames get 2 veteran forwards in Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee, who leave Philadelphia for Calgary. James, Kuzmenko and Patellier have kind of in a way, sadly, been roped into like the AHL system, sadly. They've been very good with the Wranglers, their affiliate, who's just been crushing teams and crushing the competition right now in the AHL with the Wranglers and their affiliate up in Calgary. But now, though, chance for them to shine now in Philly, where, again, I said, though, if this team was healthy, they might make the postseason. They've dealt with injuries, James. They've had bad goaltending, though, but this, though, should shore up some of the offense, though. But now Calgary, James, kind of out of nowhere here in the West, in the Pac division, 3rd or 4th right now in the division, led right now by Edmonton. You got Vegas. You got a very good LA team. You got a very good Oilers team. And the Flames sitting 4th right now, led by Nazem Kadri, led by Jonathan Huberdeau. Now adding Frost and Farabee, James, adds 2 more players to, I think, a very good offense, but this adds a little bit more to it, though, because Huberdeau and Kadri can't carry the load all year, though, and you can't always rely on Dustin Wolf, your goalie, or even your prospect in Devin Cooley to really, be a stonewall for you. So I think here, James, both teams get better. I think Calgary getting a bit more veteran experience, though, helps this team with where they're at right now, 4th in the division standings right now in the Pac division, which right now, James, is kind of in a way becoming a logjam at the very top of the standings table right now.
The Metropolitan Division is just something. I'm looking at the bottom of it, and you have all these, popular teams: the Rangers, the Penguins, and of course the Flyers.
Who have all hit walls this year.
Yeah, I'm shocked to see the Rangers. I know they made a move, but I'm shocked to see them only 2 games above 500, and then in the 6th spot for that team. And then shout out to Columbus for being, 26 and 20, and with, of course, what they went through at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely.
And the Devils making their run there. That's good to see them back in it. And you mentioned Hurricanes, in the previous trade. That only helps them. You see the Flyers ever getting to the, maybe they get closer to the playoffs this year, but they don't make it. Do you see maybe next year they get to it and they make some key moves for that to happen?
Yeah, I would think so, and I think you have a very great bench boss and John Tortorella, your boy.
Oh yeah.
I think though, like I've said though, that health is their main thing. They've had a lot of guys kind of get beat up here over the course of the season, though. But adding in some young legs like a Kuzmenko and a Patelier, that really helps them out, though. They've gotten contributions from a lot of guys though this year. Jamie Drysdale, James, who was dealt to Philly from Anaheim for Cutter Goche. He's had a great season. Again, he was hurt though at one point though, but he has though picked things up though. But I think the Flyers might still be a year away. I think they were sadly, James, derailed though by Carter Hart, who was their rising goaltending prospect, who got roped into a very ugly sexual assault case in 2018 when he was a junior player with other guys who were on the Canadian team in 2018. Those guys have kind of in a way, been blackballed by the NHL. One of them, Cal Foote, who was the son of legendary Avalanche player Adam Foote, who won a cup in Tampa Bay. He's been, kicked out of the league, as have a lot of these other guys, though, that they were right there. Then that lawsuit comes up, though, and that gets dropped, and he gets released from the club. So they're kind of in a way putting the pieces back together right now, but they're definitely kind of not full-fledged rebuild, James, but they're kind of in a way just restockpiling pieces right now. But that did kind of in a way throw that team for a loop, though, when that lawsuit did get dropped, though, about, I'd say, 2 years ago.
I know they were kind of the popular team to make a run this year, but I think Blue Jackets have kind of overtaken that, which I'm fine with that.
And I think any hockey fan, James, myself included, not the guy who runs a page that goes by the letters of ITH, we all agree that would be the best story of the year, is if the Blue Jackets, even if Calgary got in, because the fact that Johnny Gaudreau played for the Flames and played for the Blue Jackets as well. James, we're not even done here. We got 3 more trades that happened in the NHL over the past couple of days, my friend. This one, James, is two teams going in the total opposite direction. If anyone remembers my bold prediction show, or bold prediction segment when we talk about the NHL for my 32 thoughts on every team, I picked the Rangers to win it all after banking off of last season. And, James, they have gone in the polar opposite direction, but not as bad, though, James, as the Vancouver Canucks, who were the feel-good story of last year's postseason, won the Pac Division title, I believe, with 100-plus points, and kind of came out of left field and out of nowhere to win the division last season. They got knocked out by Edmonton, though, in round 2. Now, James, a year later, and there is a major, major locker room controversy that had been going on between JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, where, James, it got so bad that fans were wondering if Rick Tocchet, the head coach, was going to be fired. But then the team GM and the team president had to get involved and separate players and kind of, in a way, go to bat for these guys. Like, we're not worried about this right now. Yes, there's stuff going on, but these guys are, whatever they're doing. Well, James, it was bound to happen, though, that Miller and or Pettersson would be dealt, and it happened. The Rangers officially get JT Miller alongside 2 other players, and Eric Bronstrom and Jackson Dorrington from Vancouver. The Canucks do pick up Philip Sheedle and Victor Mancini in the Rangers 2025 first-round pick. James, this is only the start. That sadly, locker room rifts, James, in hockey are, I think, a little bit worse, I think, in pro sports, because, as I always mention, James, NHL head coaches and hockey coaches are fired at a higher rate than any other sport in North American pro sports. And that locker room friction, James, is much higher and worse, I think, in hockey, especially when you're coming off a year like what Vancouver did. And now there's internal strife and there is pockets of individuals. If I always bring up, or if I like I bring up, Herb Brooks, the legendary coach of the Miracle on Ice team, said, you can't have pockets of individuals on your team. We have to build a we, us, ourselves mentality, not a me, my, myself, mindset. And JT Miller was upset with his play. He's gone from like a 100-point season to like being reduced to nothing, basically. And then him and Elias Pettersson clonking heads, guys kind of picking sides. Whose side are you on here? But also they were derailed, though, by sadly, James, bad goaltending luck. Thatcher Demko's had a very, beleaguered knee injury where he's been kind of out from, time and time here. He's missed a lot of time, sadly. And there was talks he may have had to retire because of the knee injury he's had. But, James, 2 teams in the polar opposite direction, my man. Yikes. And again, this is just a start for Vancouver kind of blowing up their roster, it looks like.
I think you mentioned Boston had a locker room issue last year or this season. I can't remember.
Part of last year and a majority of this season where it led to Jim Montgomery getting fired and then picked up by the Blues.
That's what it was. I knew I remember some. And you look at the records, right? Like, okay, obviously the Canucks have the better record than the Rangers. The Rangers are right there, two above 500. But what I heard with Vancouver, even though they're 23-18, they have a horrible home ice record, but they love to play on the road.
Yes, they have been awful at Rogers Place this season, which is just unheard of.
Yeah, I remember it as a General Motors place, I think it was called back in the day.
Now it's Rogers Place because Rogers bought the rights to that building and the Oilers Arena in Alberta.
Oh, wow. That's kind of awkward when you have a winning record, but you have so much friction.
And you can't win at home. Like, it's ridiculous how that works.
You love being on the road because you can stay separate from everybody else, I guess.
I guess.
Or be in the same hotel. I don't have much on that, but JT Miller, I've heard of him before. Do you think he's going to be a big help for the Rangers?
I would hope he is because, maybe the change of scenery lifeline I always use could help. But New York needs something. This has been a team, James, who dealt away their team captain early in the year in Jacob Trouba to the Ducks, where Anaheim wasn't even on the radar for the trade. And they dealt away Urho Vakanainen, who's now become a starter in New York. He's now going to be, I think he's now replacing Miro Heiskanen, I believe, for the Four Nations face-off for the Finnish national team in a couple of weeks over in Montreal and Boston. So now he's getting playing time in New York, though. Jacob Trouba has helped Anaheim's defense now, and now the Ducks are 2 games under 500. But now I would hope that Miller can go help the Rangers in some capacity. For a team that's got – go ahead.
Go ahead. Weren't the Rangers the team that traded away like their last three captains?
Yes, 3 team captains have been dealt, and Trouba was the next guy in line, and he's come to Anaheim. And again, with him coming, even the Ducks trading Cam Fowler. That was one of my bold predictions that they would not do so because of the salary cap issues, but they still did anyway early in the season. And yet the Ducks are 2 games under 500 because of the Trouba acquisition. They've gotten guys healthy, but the Rangers, though, man, they have too many guys on this roster making a boatload of cachet who aren't scoring. Like Artemi Panarin's kind of picked it up here lately. Mika Zibanejad. They got, old friend Sam Carrick from San Diego and from the Ducks organization. There's no excuses. There is, I know the slogan is no quit in New York. Well, guess what? There should be no excuses in New York now for what they have or have not done, though. Again, if you have Zibanejad and Panarin and Carrick and Adam Fox, and now you add JT Miller, there's now no more excuses. You locked up your goalie long-term as well. I don't want to hear any more excuses out of MSG for why the Rangers are not playing to their full potential. You could say, well, it's this, well, it's that, and the Eastern Conference is this, Eastern Conference is that. You were in the Eastern Conference final as the President's Trophy winner last year. What the hell happened? Is there a disconnect between the team and Peter Laviolette? Maybe. I don't really know if that's the case right now at the stage in point in time, but it could perhaps very well be that maybe Laviolette is going to be out of town in New York pretty soon. This team has not turned things around, but I think, James, that Miller is going to have to step in and help produce. This is a Rangers team. Like I said, James, they were my pick at the start of the season to win it all this year, and they have gone backwards in so many bad ways this season, from poor goaltending. They don't score enough. They've got 4, 5, 6 bona fide all-stars, and they just can't put the biscuit in the basket. If I'm a Rangers fan, I'd be infuriated with how they played so far, but hopefully, though, that this trade kind of gets them back on track. Yet we are still not done with NHL trades, folks. The Canucks were also dealing again with the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Canucks landed a longtime journeyman defenseman, Marcus Pettersson, and Drew O'Connor in exchange for 3 players, including Danton Heinen, Vincent Desharnais, and Melvin Fernstorm in a first-round pick. So, James, Vancouver, 2 moves now made. The Penguins holding their own, though, but, man, they are right now buried in the standings right now when it comes to the Eastern Conference and the division standings, though. Again, keeping the old group together, though, of Letang and Crosby and Malkin, but trying to infect some young life, though. But I wonder, though, James, if Kyle Dubas, their GM, knows what the heck he's doing. He is the same GM, though, who kind of put together the the super team for the Maple Leafs the past couple of years, though, with Matthews and John Tavares and William Nylander and all of their guys, though, when they have, bombed out, where he finally just resigned after putting up, he did not want to put up with so many, first round losses with the Leafs, that he goes to Pittsburgh. And now it's almost like, what are you doing? The Penguins are not getting any younger, sadly, because Crosby and Malkin or Letang are getting up there near their 40s at this rate, late 30s, early 40s. But now again, Heinen bounced around for quite a while. Vince Desharnais, been around for a long time as well. But also, more importantly, James, that first-round pick could be vital for Pittsburgh going forward. And I think, James, Vancouver is still not done yet, I would say at this time. They're not done yet still.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Penguins, and, they're buried between the Rangers and the Flyers. Was it the first? Is it the top four get in from each?
The top
division?
six get in. 3 from each division, and then the bottom 2 are wild card teams, regardless of divisional affiliation.
They still got a shot. It's kind of
It's a log jam though in the East, man. It's a log jam.
The veterans, the 3 veterans you have, and then you're just trying to put young pieces around it. That could be either really good thing, or it could just ruin everything, it seems like, with a game like hockey with speed like that. Do you think they'll ever break up that the 3 they have there in Pittsburgh anytime soon?
I seriously doubt it. I think that they're all going to retire on their own terms. It depends on when the contracts run out. Again, I don't want to hear any baloney about Crosby going to a team in a rebuild mode right now from that ITH network or whatever it's called on Facebook or whoever they are or whatever it is. A guy like that does not deserve to go out in a rebuild, in a new market where, again, he's a Penguin for life. Like, I did not see Mario Lemieux jump ship after he came back from cancer. He stayed with that franchise his whole entire career. So don't give me any of this baloney and garbage about Crosby going to, a market like San Jose or, LA or some other, team. Because, again, a guy like that does not go somewhere else to play the end of his career at this point in time. But I think, though, that the Penguins still get a very, I think, good player in Heinen, who's never really had a chance to really show his stuff because he's been bounced around from so many different teams. He was in Anaheim for a bit. I think he went to Minnesota for a bit. He was in Vancouver already a couple of different times. He was in Washington. Vince Desharnais has been kind of bounced around, too, from Edmonton and other places. I saw him play in Bakersfield. But I think, James, that first-round pick for Pittsburgh, that could be vital depending on where the Canucks finish in the standings.
I see that. Man. How many trades do you think the Canucks end up doing more?
I think they got one more.
More?
I think it's going to be Elias Pettersson. I think that's the last one that they'll probably make to, I think, kind of in a way, tear it down and start from square one. Because I think you want to kind of get rid of all the cancerous, activity. Again, it's been very, James, public. It's been out of control. Local press has kind of been, scrambling to put it all together because it's been one guy says this, one guy said that. Again, like the GM got involved, the team president even got involved and talked to the team. Like, it's been very, very ugly up there, like I said, James. And this is a team, again, a year removed from a playoff run and a division title last year in the Pac division.
It's amazing how fast things change. And in hockey, like
Rick
you mentioned.
Tocchet is probably coaching for his job, too, at this rate.
Oh,
especially
no doubt about that.
And I think especially with that horrible home record, as you alluded to a couple of heartbeats ago, too.
Yeah, I'm shocked by that. I thought they were going to be up and coming, but that obviously hasn't happened. But yeah, shout out Maple Leafs have done well. But Winnipeg, did you see them ever being first in the Central?
This has been a shock, seeing the Jets kind of come out of nowhere, especially in that division, James, with Dallas, who we'll talk about here in a second, and Colorado. Those were like the main 3. I know that people were high on Nashville. Like I said, though, in my bold prediction show, though, just because you got Jonathan Marchessault and you got Steven Stamkos, that doesn't mean squat, because you're not going to go anywhere. And sure enough, we'll look where they're at in the standings. Mm-hmm. And they got blown out by the Senators tonight, who are now who all of a sudden now are a really good story in the Eastern Conference with the Senators at this rate. We'll talk more a bit, James, a little bit more about the NHL in a second here. We're going to get to one more trade that was made, kind of a minor trade that was made, James, but no surprise here. The Sharks and the Stars made a swap of picks and 2 veteran players. as the Stars get Michael Granlund and Cody Ceci from the Sharks, who pick up a first-round pick and a third-round pick for the upcoming draft, which will probably be later in the rounds because the Stars will not be having the worst record in the standings. And James, this is really not a surprise, sadly, for the Sharks, who I think they have shown some flashes of promise, but they have not been there yet. I think Celebrini will probably be top 3 in the voting for the Calder Trophy. I know he's had a great year though and stuff, but again, that record is still not, satisfying for me for where I think they really could be. Them and the Ducks and the Blackhawks being in these very long perpetual rebuilds right now. So, James, this is really not a surprise for me though that a team like the Sharks, again, grooming some young talent like Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, Luke Cunnin, and also, with William Eklund. Like, you're going to bring veterans in, James, but also you're not going to keep them probably for the full season, sadly. So, good return by, I think, though, great return for Mike Greer, though, getting a first-round pick and a third-round pick, though. And Granlund and Ceci quickly, James, enter a very hot Central Division race and a very packed Western Conference playoff race now all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. You got the Stars there with the Jets, and that's a great thing. Avalanche, even with their move, they're still right there. After that, no one's even close. And Blues, Utah, Nashville. I wondered about them because of what you mentioned before the season started. Man, it looks like the Pacific's going to have a lot more playoff teams than the Central will.
There's a chance they're going to have 4.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, for the Sharks, you just hear about Celebrini, but I'm trying to figure out, like, who had a rookie year where they were banged up, but they showed up very well, but the team wasn't doing so well. You've seen that happen in the NBA sometimes. I think
I'd probably go with Crosby and Ovechkin in a way. They went to beleaguered franchises like, the Penguins were nearly sold to Kansas City, Missouri at one point in time. The Capitals still own the worst record all time by total points and wins in a season back when they were just starting out about 50 years ago. So, Macklin and, again, the Sharks have something nice brewing, but they're years away though. Like, anyone out there on that ITH network who expected him to be a cup contender in year 1 because of Macklin Celebrini, give me a break and stick to talking about American football. But
wow.
Certainly though, I think Mike Greer though does deserve to get some praise though for, again, what he has been able to build recently though this season. But once more, again, a 15-win team in the bottom of the conference is not moving the needle for me this year. You got to give them 2, 3, 4 years where they're back in the, proverbial mix right now of the Western Conference, where, again, it's just so stacked. Calgary, Colorado, the Wild and the Stars, the Jets, the Kings, the Knights, and the Oilers right now would all make the playoff field at this rate. But, teams like Anaheim have turned a corner this season. Vancouver has their issues. The Blues have their problems. Utah doesn't have a name yet still. We'll talk about that here in a second. The Kraken have kind of been up and down this year. Again, I said Nashville would not make the postseason this year more than likely because, again, you can't just add 2 guys in a sport like hockey and plug them in right away and hope for instant results. Chicago, again, is on hard times. The Sharks are on hard times, and I think, though, that it's going to be at least 2 to 3 years. It's kind of where Anaheim's been since 2018. They've kind of been in like a 4, 5, 6 year rebuild, and it does take time. And right now that it's kind of bearing fruit a little bit up there. I think, though, Mike Greer needs time. And again, anyone out there who thought they would at least, win 30 or 40 games and make the postseason, you got to calm the waters. This is going to be a very, in a way, kind of painful time. But as they get more experience, though, and they mature and they stop making TikTok videos and, rapping Christmas music, they'll actually be a good team. Just call it for what it is right now. But again, folks, a very wild couple days in the NBA and the NHL, as well, with major trades made across the board in both the association and over in the National Hockey League. James, over now to Major League Baseball. On a bit of a somber note, my man, of course, we heard the news over the weekend. Faye Vincent, the very beleaguered and longtime former MLB commissioner, sadly passed away over the weekend from cancer of his bladder at the age of 86 years old. He passed away on Saturday. Of course, James, Faye Vincent was not really, he kind of, in a way, James, had the role dropped at his feet when Bart Giamatti, who, of course, we know very well, had banned Pete Rose for life for his gambling addiction and what he had done though for the World Series though with gambling. And Fay kind of had the job landed in his lap though, and of course, James, he was marred by controversy when it came to player free agency. I work for the owners, screw the players in a way, but also James, his one saving grace though was bringing baseball back after the Loma Prieta earthquake hit in 1989 up in the Bay Area between the A's and Giants, where, of course, James, the 30 for 30 was put out, though, and that Fay did his damnedest to bring baseball back when NorCal needed it the most, though, during that time of, both teams being in the World Series, but also what it meant, though, to kind of help the recovery efforts. Like we said about, the Lakers coming back after the fires broke out and the Clippers playing their games afterwards, and they were accepting donations for the displaced victims again. All 5 American Hockey League teams in California raised money in some way to give to the LA fire victims though. But James, it's always, I think, tough though when we talk about a in memoriam segment, James. But also I think though when there's a lot of baggage, a lot of controversy, it's even worse, I think, because of what Fay as the commissioner had done for baseball for all the wrong reasons. I work for the owners. Screw you, the players. This and that and whatnot. And of course, Pete, I have the signed paper of you saying that you will take the lifetime ban from Giamatti. I'm not reversing my role because he's dead. And, you signed your life away. You're banned from the game. But there is still that one positive, James, getting baseball back on its feet after the earthquake in '89. But, James, how do you remember Fay Vincent's tenure and also his time, though, in Major League Baseball?
What's interesting to note? I was watching, and this randomly came up on my YouTube recommendations, but it was the coverage of that earthquake, okay? And they had and I watched, whatever, the first hour. And right away, after it happened, Vincent is talking with Gary Thorne, who was doing, I think, ABC pregame show stuff. And the one thing I liked what he said is like, hey, we're not even thinking about playing tonight or the next day. We got to make sure, Candlestick Park is okay and people are okay. We're not even thinking about baseball right now. So that kind of leadership I saw in that interview, right after the earthquake happened, and the way that they, of course, suspended or postponed the game, you could tell that he loved leadership there. I bet there's a lot of fans that would love this commissioner right now because I would be on the owner's side more than the player's side right now because of the money given out, what the Dodgers are doing with the money, later deferred money. I think he would have been a great commissioner right now. And then what I'm just reading here about what the New York Times had. Fay Vincent's final warning to MLB: gambling always leads to corruption. And
Dun, dun, dun.
There was a New York Met, I think not New York Met, but there was somebody, I think it was, I don't remember who it was, but there was a couple of players that are already banned because of gambling. So I'm just thinking about that. And of course, we'll have news about someone else who just got fired. But Fay Vincent, even though he was only, what was that? Only for 3 years?
Shortest term ever for a Major League Baseball commissioner.
And you never see that out of all the commissioners. They're usually there for 10 plus years.
Yeah, and James, just think right now, actively, that Rob Manfred just barely hit 10 years as being the baseball commissioner.
Feels like 30.
Well, that's Gary Bettman and Don Garber for you in the NHL and for Major League Soccer.
Yeah. So I just remember his face because I saw it last week watching that Bay, series coverage of the earthquake that happened. It's interesting to note, too, 10 days later, I was born when they played Game 3, when they got back to it in Game 3. But think about all the chaos that was going on, and you're having to oversee the actual World Series through all what was going on, and he had to go through it. They mentioned his intentions were good, if not great. And I would have loved him, I think, now just because, again, he supported the owners, not the players. We're gonna have a stoppage anyway after this season, so I think it's inevitable. But we would have it no matter who the commissioner is. But I guess those are the ways I'll remember Faye Vincent.
Yeah, I kind of remember just James about him kind of being tough to work with. I heard from some, inner circles. I do kind of get your perspective about, you want him now as the commissioner because he would probably put a stop to, the Dodgers spending or what the Padres had done, over the past couple of years. I think he would have, James, because, it's San Diego and, we don't, in people's minds, we don't deserve to win crap in this market because it's San Diego, California. But I digress, though. But I do get where you're coming from, though, even though that everything has been legally done when it's come to the deferred money and things like this. Maybe a salary cap could have been what he could have, perhaps, done. And I think that was actually talked about, though, when he was commissioner, that he wanted to do that. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. What are you talking about? But regardless, though, James, again, the only saving grace he has in his record would probably be getting baseball back underway after the earthquake in '89. I also think, though, James, a little bit about when sports came back after 9/11, how every commissioner was kind of smart about it. I remember that the NFL was scrutinized so badly when they came back literally the week of JFK getting assassinated in Dallas, Texas. They had faced national scorn. Why are you playing games when the president's been killed? What are you people doing playing football on a Sunday, the week of the death of our president, for God's sakes? And I think, though, that 9/11 kind of in a way was where commissioners' offices got smarter when it comes to handling, tragedies. I think, first day of the new year with the terrorist attack in New Orleans, the day of the Sugar Bowl, they're like, yeah, we're going to play the game tomorrow. We need a day to kind of, investigate, give people a chance to kind of, collect themselves. We'll come back tomorrow. And I think, James, so much, though, about recently, with us living in Southern California and what our neighbors and friends have experienced in Los Angeles County, which, again, San Diego is not a part of Los Angeles County. But we have had family, we have had friends, we have had coworkers, we have had, people in general that call our beautiful state home. They've lost everything. And it just, James, in a way for me, like I said it here a couple times, it brought back so much old trauma of when San Diego had our fires in 2003 and 2007. We had a fire burning down the hill from my house, right by the Fashion Valley Mall during the very big wind conditions we had here over the past couple of weeks. And I was getting notices to evacuate, but it's like, it's 5 miles from my house. I'm fine. But I still had my backpack ready to go just in case. I've had it ready on my bed behind me here for the past several weeks of, my phone chargers and all my supplies and crap, because you just never know, sadly. And I really just applaud, what all the commissioners' offices did during the fires and like Faye Vincent. And also, James, I applaud all the teams. Like I said, all 5 of the American Hockey League clubs in California. So the Gulls, the Ontario Reign, the Coachella Valley Firebirds, the Bakersfield Condors, and the San Jose Barracuda, they all, in a way, did donation drives at home games during the fires. We raised a boatload of money in San Diego one night, as did Coachella Valley in Ontario and the Condors. And, of course, the CUDA did as well. And, all the teams within the greater LA area, all 12 of them were selling LA Strong shirts, though, again, the Ducks aren't in Los Angeles, but it still said LA Strong and had the Ducks logo. But regardless, it went to a good cause. I think, though, that Faye Vincent keeping baseball dormant for, I think, 3, 4, 5 days roughly, James. Yeah, a full week. I don't think any other commissioner would have done that at this rate.
10 days.
A full 10 days.
Yeah.
To make sure that the ballpark was secure to play in. There was no debris that would have fallen on fans, or any of that sort of stuff. And that, I think, will be Faye Vincent's lasting legacy, will be how you come back to play sports in wake of tragedy, in wake of 9/11, in wake of COVID, in wake of fires burning across California. That's how you come back, though, is after a 10-day break. That is like the measuring stick of how it should be done when sports come back from tragedy.
I definitely agree with that. I've got nothing more.
One footnote, folks, from baseball. Umpire Pat Hoberg today officially fired on Monday for alleged gambling on not on his part, but reports have come out from The Athletic, though, and from Front Office Sports that Mr. Hoberg had been giving betting accounts to a pro poker player friend of his who was making bets on the sport. But again, Pat Hoberg, though, per the investigation, was not guilty of wagering on baseball himself, though he did delete a text thread involving maybe some lines, maybe some inside information regarding a game he was working. But sadly, one of the rising stars of the umpiring world is now out of a job, but he can apply to be reinstated in 2026. By the way, James, that is the third baseball betting scandal alone in the 24 across last year and now here in 2025.
Wow.
IP Mizuhara, the Tucupita Marcano, and the 6 minor league players, and now umpire Hoberg.
By the way, the Epi audio came out for one of the transactions. That was awkward as heck. But the umpire, Pat Hoberg, didn't he have in the 2023 World Series a perfect game called? It's unfortunate because you can never have that. You get close to it, like we saw, I think, last year in the Detroit-Houston series. But, man, that's unfortunate. I think I read some of the comments from Instagram or wherever it was saying, the perfect umpire, the good ones get in trouble, but we still have the bad ones out there, and they get elevated. Whatever. I don't know.
It's baseball.
Yeah.
Simple as that. James, I'll quickly run through the top 25 rankings for men's and women's college basketball. Over on the men's side of things, Auburn takes all 62 votes. They are still number 1 overall at 20-1, followed up by Duke, Alabama, Tennessee, and Houston, 1 through 5. Florida, Purdue, Iowa State, Michigan State, A&M, and Texas A&M come in 6 through 10. Marquette, St. John's, Texas Tech, Kentucky, and Missouri come in 11 through 15. Kansas, Memphis, Maryland, UConn, and Arizona 16 through 20, with Wisconsin, Mississippi State, Illinois, Michigan, and Ole Miss coming in at 20 or 19 through 20 or 20 through 25. Others who got votes: Clemson, St. Mary's, California, Louisville, Creighton, Oregon, UCLA, New Mexico, Drake, Gonzaga, Utah State, Vanderbilt, George Mason, Baylor, Texas, and Oklahoma. Oregon, Louisville, Vanderbilt dropped from the rankings during this round of votes. James, what stands out here for you in the top 25 for men's hoops?
Obviously, Bruce Pearl and Auburn being number
Talk
1.
about a guy going to the Fountain of Youth, man, and finding something in there. Holy smokes, man. What a year it's been for them so far.
Yeah, and then Duke climbing up from, 6 to 2
Cooper
there.
Flag, baby.
Flag and the others there. What's amazing, too, you have Alabama and Tennessee football schools who are 3 and 4. You throw Auburn, I guess, in there. That's shocking. And Florida, who has a renaissance type of year, at number 6. Okay, Houston's number 5, and they're usually around there. But when it comes to turning time, you can never trust them to get anywhere, to the Sweet 16. They always lose sometime before, it seems like. Purdue's been steady. Iowa State, I think, went from 6 to 8, unfortunately.
I think Kansas blew their doors out on Monday night.
Yeah, they fell from 3 to 8. Yeah, 3 to 8. I knew them at 6 at one point, I think. Michigan State's, even though they're 18-3, I don't think anyone's taking them that seriously at 9. Good to see St. John's there. I believe that's Rick
Pitino.
No, yeah,
Rick Pitino.
So that's good to see. Texas Tech. You didn't really know about Kentucky and their new head coach, but they're at 14.
Yeah, Mark Pope's done a hell of a job so far in Lexington.
Yeah, and then Connecticut, even with their coach costing them a couple of games, they're still top 20. Arizona at 20, they just got that too. They needed help from...
They moved up 6 spots since last week's poll came out.
They had a big win at home against, I want to say...
The half-court heave to beat...
to tie the game in overtime by Love. And then they held on to in that big game. I think it was last Thursday or Saturday. No, had to be Thursday, I think. But anyway, that helped him out because Caleb Love, by the way, the UNC transfer, I'm surprised he stayed there. But good to see Ole Miss in the top 25. You never really see them in there. Yeah, I'm just happy for Bruce Pearl because it always seems
By
like
the
he
way,
has some
James,
tricks up his sleeve.
that shot was against Baylor.
Thank
It
you.
looks like.
Somebody black
Yes.
and green. And I
Baylor.
can't remember. And again, it's freaking weird that Arizona is now in the Big 12 and, you know, not playing UCLA twice a year. I know they played in non-conference play, but it just doesn't seem right that, you know, Arizona basketball isn't playing, you know, the Western teams. It's awful.
James, we'll quickly get through the women's top 25. No changes at the top. UCLA got all 32 first place votes. They're still 21-0, by the way. The Bruins out of the Big Ten Conference. Please give me a break. 1 through 5, though, it is UCLA, South Carolina, Notre Dame, Texas, and UConn. 1 through 5. LSU, USC, Ohio State, and TCU, and Duke. 6 through 10. With Kentucky, Kansas State, North Carolina State, and Oklahoma. Check in 11 through 15. Maryland, Georgia Tech, West Virginia, Tennessee, and Michigan State come in 16 through 20, with Cal, Florida State, Alabama, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma State 21 through 25. Others who got vote was Creighton, Baylor, Illinois, Utah, Ole Miss, Michigan, South Dakota State, Minnesota, Harvard, Columbia, and Richmond. So, James, the Bruins maintain the top overall spot. South Carolina still with 1 loss. Notre Dame 2 losses. Texas and UConn 2 losses. LSU 23-1. Sadly, USC got upset over the weekend at Iowa. Same day that they retired Caitlin Clark's number. But James, the biggest storyline, honestly, my man, TCU. Haley Van Lith, who went from LSU to TCU, has really turned that program into a juggernaut here. They're 9th overall, 21-2. And all of a sudden, James, TCU is now 9th in the top 25 when they really have not been. And by the way, James, what a good story that is. TCU last year, James, was so ravaged by injuries, they had to do open tryouts just to fill spots on the roster last season. They found, I think, 3 or 4 players who I think were volleyball players or other sports or other athletes, but had played basketball. I forget what they called it. They had a very cool name like that, but they were all walk-ons to fill roster spots, and they kind of got themselves back on track. Then James Haley Van Lith leaves LSU and goes to TCU, and all of a sudden, James, they go from being walk-on feel-good stories now to a 21-win, 9th-ranked team in the top 25. What a story and turnaround that is for TCU.
Yeah, Lily, she garners attention wherever she goes, and the money follows her as well. So it's I wondered how she would do at TCU coming, you know, from LSU there. But yeah, UCLA, it's been awesome to watch them do what they do. USC was with them at one point, but I think they play one more time against each other this season. You know, UConn's holding there. South Carolina, by the way, Asia Wilson had her number retired, I think, a couple of days ago. There,
yeah, her
and Caitlin
Clark had him retired on Sunday.
Isn't that's crazy how they both
They
got
both
in
were
there?
22, so it makes total sense on 2-2.
California being in there is cool as well. I can't remember last time they've been ranked.
It's been a very good women's basketball program, James, and USC current head coach Lindsey Gottlieb kind of in a way made Cal kind of turn a corner about a decade ago. And one of her former players, Brittany Boyd Edwards, is now an assistant coach at, I believe, St. Mary's now up in Moraga, California.
And then, by the way, I saw tonight, North Carolina State had a big upset win, I guess, over Duke. So 14-10, so that's going to change. Oh, and then one thing about the men's side, real quick, and it was so weird. Last Monday, UCLA and USC played on a random Monday night at, I want to say it was like a 6 o'clock tip, or maybe
at
5
or at Galen.
At Galen Center. And I'm thinking to myself, that game used to be on, on a Saturday at either 7 o'clock or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. Not
7:30,
yeah,
8
but
o'clock.
on ESPN too. This was on the Big Ten. I'm sorry, the Big Ten network, and it was on a Monday, random Monday at 6 o'clock. And I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't sound right. But it
Let
was
alone
on.
who
I
the
missed
hell
it.
back on the East Coast is watching that game at 9 o'clock Eastern time on a Monday night?
They think they like them. They don't like them. I think they rather watch the women's team, UCLA and USC, more than the men's team because they've done better, of course. Juju Watkins still putting up great numbers there. Um, UCLA just sounds like they have a well-rounded team.
And a hell of a coach in Corey Close.
Yeah. Man, it's usually South Carolina or UConn or LSU, but it'd be refreshing to have UCLA win the championship. But they're the only one undefeated that I can see left. So even though I don't like them, I think it'd be cool if they won.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great though. The parity in the women's game, James, has been kind of going in this direction for the last decade. UConn has not won a title since 2016. Just think about that. The longtime Iron Fist ruler of women's college basketball has had almost a decades-long drought of not winning a championship.
It's almost like it sounds like the Yankees. How they haven't won since 09, and everybody's enjoying the parody.
And it's really, helped fuel, the interest in the women's game that there's not that one dominant team every year like there has been, though, in years past when it comes to, where the game is at, though. But again, those are the top 25 rankings for men's and women's college basketball. All right, James, going to finally get out of here for the night. Starting off, though, of course, with the ever-famous, you know it, you love it, the off-the-board topics. My man, we, of course, going to talk about one or two topics that were not discussed on the program that we'd like to get off our chest. James, what do you got?
Okay. I have just a question for you. Out of the four pro major sports, NBA and NHL, NFL, and MLB, who has the best trade deadline? Now, the best could be like the juiciest, the most activity, or the right time of year. You can base it off whatever you want. But out of the four major sports, who has the best trade deadline?
Good question. Part of me, James, still wants to lean towards Major League Baseball.
And that's moved, right? From
and there's only one now. There's no longer two of them like there used to be.
That's it.
Yeah, I still kind of lean towards baseball just probably because I had gotten accustomed when the Padres were actually spending money and they weren't, stuck in, courts of law with ownership, with ownership lawsuits. You got accustomed when you were, like 2020 through 2024 to like, okay, what are we going to be doing here? And of course, 2020 was, the acquisitions that they made to bolster the bullpen. They got Austin Nola, they got Mike Clevenger. And then 2021, they didn't really do a whole lot. Then, of course, 22 was Brandon Drury, Josh Hader, Josh Bell, and Juan Soto. And then 23, I don't think there was really much there. But then last year, of course, there was, midseason trades, Dylan Cease in March, Luis Ariz in May, things like that. So I think I'd go baseball first. I still think the NBA trade deadline's pretty intriguing, though, too. But it's, I think, a little bit like with a grain of salt because, like we were talking before we came on the air on Monday night, James. If Jimmy Butler's dealt to the Warriors, he said, "I'm not going to report to that team. What the hell are you talking about?" So, like, I think the NBA is like a distant second. Hockey's probably like my second, though, because it does, in a way, sometimes have the ripple effect of my organization gets affected with trades usually too. So like some guys will come into our organization in San Diego and whatnot. It's hard to gauge soccer because they have different trade and transfer windows that he can make trades. Like there you have one in the winter, they have one in the fall, like they have one like every season basically. But that's kind of more like mainly, sadly, a lot of MLS guys going to play in overseas. I think that just happened today with Columbus trading their star player to a team in over in Europe somewhere, and things like that. And even James, this even happens in women's soccer. The San Diego Wave have basically torn down the roster of the veterans of Alex Morgan, Abby Dahlkemper, and big name players, and they have traded them away, or they retired, or they were dealt to other teams to make the roster younger. And they just recently, sadly, lost Naomi Girma, who's been called the best defender in women's soccer by so many media pundits and by coaches and by fellow players. She got paid $1 million to go play with Chelsea over in Europe, which is Team USA women's head coach's Emma Hayes' old club in over in Europe. So, like, soccer trades are way different because it's usually a player leaving America to go overseas for a big bag of cash. But I still think, though, that I'd go baseball, hockey, basketball for my main three. And again, I don't care. I don't care about the NFL. So there you go.
I don't like the NFL one because it's a lot of the trades get done in training camp or preseason, and then a lot of the trade deadline deals are done, but the juicier ones are done before it. The smaller ones get done at the deadline, it seems like, for NFL. So I don't like that one. Yeah, MLB used to be fun. I'm trying to remember the times it was. Now, what is it? On August 1st, I want to say?
That, or it's still July 31st, one of the two.
Yeah. What was it before, though? Was it
They had one in July, then they had one, I think, in late August. That was the non-waiver trade deadline.
I remember the one, in July. The earliest July one. I remember that was the most intriguing for me. What was the other one? NBA. Okay, yeah. So it used to be, I think, a week later, I want to say, and now it's a week earlier. It used to be, after the All-Star game, the All-Star break. Now it's before the All-Star break, of course. And it's good, I guess, for the team because they can fit, they can learn how to play together, the new players coming in. So I guess it works out like that. But I always like the All-Star time because you wondered, okay, these two guys are playing together on the All-Star team. What if they played together and the rumors came out, So I always like that. And usually that's what happened with, one guy talking to another guy. It's like, hey, you want to come play for with me over here? Just, tell whomever, hey, you're not happy over there. You can come play with me. And it seems like that would happen a lot sometimes. NHL, though, is crazy because isn't it like 3 weeks before the regular season ends? Or am I wrong?
It'll be in March this year.
Okay.
Because of the fact of the Four Nation Face-Off tournament starting up on the 12th.
Okay. And how many weeks is that till the end of the regular season, the deadline?
March 7th, so the season ends, I think, April 19th, April 20th.
Okay. It seems like last year it was later in the season.
It may have been.
I think it was because I was just amazed at the volume of players getting traded to other clubs, and then how fast the postseason would come, and then they would just be thrown right in. I find that intriguing, but I don't think it would work in the other major sports like basketball, baseball, and football, especially non-football.
Right.
But would you imagine in baseball, you're just throwing a starting pitcher in there, and he's only been there a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden you're in the playoffs like that? That would be crazy. In basketball, it probably would work because the game is so individual now, and everybody does the crappy, pick and roll, pop three shots. So I think anybody could do that. So it'd work in the NBA, but I'm just amazed at the deadline, the timing of NHL. I think it's more intriguing like that in a way. And again, you mentioned the coaches being fired at a higher rate or management. Literally, the trade deadline is either a blessing or a curse for those management or coaches.
For sure.
From what I gather from what you always mentioned, but for me, I guess it would be NBA just because of what we saw. I think July 1st, when you have a free agency signings, I say the worst is MLB because it's always into spring training, or it's always before spring training, or it's either in December or it's right into
Winter
spring training.
meetings, maybe some stuff comes. So like again, the
Yeah.
Padres getting Dylan Cease in March last year before they went to South Korea.
I don't like that. I wish there was a date where it's a cutoff where you have to sign with the team. You can make trades
James,
whenever.
I recall though, I think on Press Row or on one of our other network programs on here saying I'd be in favor of a 90-day signing period. Once the gate, the day after the World Series, okay, you have 90 days to figure out your next destination, no exceptions. Like that'd be the best course going forward to add some sort of not drama, but just add some excitement to the hot stove season in baseball. Simple as that.
Yeah, because I don't think a lot of players who have like one child or let's just say a wife or a girlfriend, they don't mind moving cities.
Right.
It's the other ones that have like 3 or 4 kids, right?
Like Manny Machado, for example, a established player like a Yu Darvish, for example, guys like that.
Yeah. It's just, I guess it depends on the situation, but it'd be so intriguing. Like, you wouldn't have to worry about a player like Pete Alonso right now, right? He's like the biggest last domino to fall.
Yeah, Alex Bregman's up there, though, too.
Yeah, and Alex Bregman. And you literally don't know if they're going to go back to their old teams or if they're going to have like 2 or 3 teams in mind right now. You literally don't know, and you should know a week away from pitchers and catchers reporting. It's just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, James, but it's baseball. Like, baseball is stupid is a phrase I hear a lot on midday radio on down here in San Diego.
It's the timing isn't right for a lot of it in the off season. I'll just say that.
I agree. With that, James, I'm going to go off the board, and this might surprise people. I'm going to talk about the NFL for my topic, but it's mainly because 2025 officially marks 30 years since the San Diego Chargers made their first and lone Super Bowl in the 1995 calendar year of the 1994 season. Arguably, James, the best season ever in San Diego football history, maybe minus the 63 team that won the only major pro title in San Diego history in 63 in the AFL over the then named Boston Patriots. Of course, the Chargers that year in 94, 11-5 division champs, won the playoff games over the Dolphins at home, and of course beat the Steelers where no one beat the Steelers at Three River Stadium. And of course they got clobbered by probably the greatest offense in the modern day NFL of the San Francisco 49ers. And James, I only bring up the Chargers and bring up this event in my hometown's history because I was not born when the Chargers were on their. I was probably, let's see, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. I was 8 months old when they were playing the Niners in the Super Bowl in 95. And I came across a video on YouTube from a gentleman named Jack Valentine, who's a San Diego resident. And Jack compiled, James, his video camera footage of the impromptu welcome home party that KNSD Channel 39 San Diego TV threw alongside 91X, Extra 690, The Beach 106.5, and all the local media, James, threw for the Chargers at Jack Murphy Stadium when they were on their way home from the game in Pittsburgh. And it's so cool, James, to go and find this archive footage that Jack put out. But it's literally, James, a 35, 40-minute video of literally them being him and his girlfriend, I'm guessing at the time, being at Jack Murphy Stadium, Qualcomm Stadium, at the welcome the team back event. It starts off with it being very, people are filing into the stadium, and then it shows the entire welcome back event. They were lighting off the cannon every like 5 minutes. They were shot off fireworks. Lee Hacksaw Hamilton was hosting it. He always tells the story. He got a phone call, with the clamshell cell phones back in the day when they landed. Hey, we have an event at the stadium. You're going to MC this giant party of 62,000 football fans wanting to welcome the team home for what they just did in Pittsburgh. And it's so cool, James, to and I know that you love watching old archive footage. For me, that was special to see that for the first time of this is how good we had it at one point in the 90s. People might forget that this is a market, James, that had a Super Bowl team and a World Series team within a 4-year span in 94, 95, in the 98 Padres, that we had both of our pro teams at the time in the postseason and going to the big dance. I know we didn't win the damn thing, but still, James, it was really, again, awesome and cool to see that footage. Again, I was young. I was 8 months old when the Niners kicked our ass at Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. But seeing the players who became like living, breathing superheroes in our town, other than our homeboy Junior Seau, but Natron Means, for example, Mark Say, Tony Martin, Dennis Gibson, who was forever in San Diego Charger history for batting down Neil O'Donnell's pass to the goal line to preserve the victory to go to the Super Bowl in 94. And then, of course, remembering other players, on that team, like I said about Dennis Gibson, guys like, Mark Say, Tony Martin, Alfred Papano, who always would crack the football like it was a coconut because I think he was from Hawaii or from America Samoa. He would crack the football and drink the coconut milk like it was a pineapple or like it was a coconut when he would score touchdowns. Eric Bieniemy was a running back for the Chargers that season, in 94, 95. David Binn was the longtime long snapper. He played 17 straight years as a Charger. Darren Carrington, whose daughter Dejanay just got dealt from the Sun in the WNBA back to Dallas, Texas, where she played her college ball at Baylor, and she actually wore Darren's jersey in for a pregame walk-in her rookie year from that 94 season. It was the powder blue with the 75th anniversary patch on it. And of course, James, Stan Humphries, probably the best Charger quarterback that I kind of got to see for a little bit. Then, of course, we had the likes of, Rick Neuheisel and Ryan Leaf and Doug Flutie. And we had Drew Brees. And, of course, I got to see Brees and I got to see Phillip Rivers for a long time before they left for Los Angeles. But, James, it was a very cool – it was, again, just cool to see this footage. But it also showed me how San Diego rallies around their teams. Yes, the Chargers have been gone, James, but that moment in time, though, lives on here forever because 62,000 people drove to Jack Murphy Stadium, left their cars abandoned on the freeways, on Friars Road, on Camino del Rio South, and people could not get into the stadium because everybody and their mother was like, holy cow, we got to get to the stadium. My parents did not go to that, though. But they had season seats, though, for a long time at the stadium. So we were at Charger games. We were at SDSU football games. We were at Padre games. My memories were all with the Padres, the 98 team that went to the World Series. I got to see them play the Braves in the NLCS. I was there when they played Houston in the NLDS. I was there when they came back being down 7-0 to the Dodgers, win the division title, 8-7 when they came all the way back being down 7-0. I was there for so many great, amazing, I was there when Ricky Henderson, God bless his soul, got hit number 3,000 and Tony Gwynn retired that night. I was at the final game at Qualcomm when they ripped out home plate and drove it down to Petco Park and put it in where it still is at today at home plate. But seeing how this city, James, rallies around teams that actually put their best foot forth and win, like those Charger teams of the 90s, the Padres in 98, the Padres now, SDSU basketball going to the title game against UConn a couple years ago. That I always think, though, James, about the speech Junior Seau gave when he closed down the Welcome Back Committee, where he basically said, now the world is going to know about the San Diego Chargers, not about Shamu, not about the zoo, not about SeaWorld. This is not no damn tourist destination. The world is going to know about the San Diego Chargers. And there was a very famous hotel in Mission Valley, the Hilton. It's a Hilton hotel that they every Christmas season they take all the lamps, James, and they spell out joy in the windows of the hotel on off Interstate 8. But at that time, though, you went around town, James, when they were going to the Super Bowl, every building had their lights in blue and gold, or they had Charger bolts in the windows of the office buildings in downtown, Mission Valley, at the stadium. And it was really, James, a very awesome year to be a Charger fan. A 11-win team. They had they beat Denver in a game where Elway was going to win the game at the end like he usually did. The game of them beating, the Chiefs after Marty Schottenheimer came on the field and Dennis Gibson shoved him back into the bench area. And Bobby Ross said, we're going to whoop your ass coming out of halftime. The stories of Sean Jefferson trucking your boy Al Davis in L.A. and the Chargers beat the doors off the Raiders at the L.A. Coliseum. All those intangibles, James, and how that team came together. And again, how it's still is a special moment in the San Diego chapter of that beleaguered, nonchalant, irrelevant NFL franchise and mismarketed to me and my family, and even that cesspool of a city called Los Angeles, California. That was a special moment in time, James. And Stan Humphries is now in the Breitbart Hall of Fame, as is Junior Seau, Natron Means. A lot of those guys are now in the Breitbart Hall of Fame here. And just kind of again seeing that video package, James, of Jack Murphy Stadium, just to bring the team home from Pittsburgh on a America West Airlines flight from Pittsburgh. And in the background of the footage hearing, San Diego Superchargers, like that's what this community, James, lost, was about people rallying around a franchise like the Chargers were. And now, yes, we have the Padres. Now we have other teams to now, in a way, get behind, as we do with SDFC coming up in a couple of weeks' time when they open up the year in Carson, California versus the LA Galaxy. But I guess, James, honestly, James, you have to watch that footage. I'll try and find you the link for it, man. But it's really cool to really see how sports rallies a community. I long, James, have lived on that hill, that I know that there is, stuff going on in the world that I'm not going to get into because I don't care for stuff that doesn't involve the sports world. But a moment in time like that, James, just proves to you, doesn't matter voting lines, backgrounds, ethnicities, sexual orientation, sports brings everyone together in good ways and great ways, like that moment in 1994.
Yeah, I've seen, luckily, someone, I want to say like 5, 6, 7 years ago, had little video cuts from like local news here in San Diego and the sports
Yes,
clips from it. And they had like from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. And I've seen that Junior Seau speech and how KNSD was there. And what was it? I think it was in the parking lot. They had people dressed in blue and yellow, and they formed a bolt in the stadium parking lot.
Star 100.7, I think, did that like the day after, I think.
And luckily, News 8 Throwback, they have a lot of stuff on that, on merchandise and whatever it was. And some things I remember like from watching that, how many people traveled to LA to watch the Chargers play the Raiders that year in 92. They had like bus loads of people going up there for that game, for those games up there against the Raiders. What else? Wasn't John Carney and Darren Bennett the kicker and punter of that team?
No, John Carney was the kicker in 94, but I don't think Darren was around that time. I think it was John Kidd who got dealt to the Dolphins. They brought in a new punter that season, I think, or in the middle of the year in 94.
What I remember too, just like how many players have died from that '94 team as well.
Sadly, yes.
I can't remember the number, but it's a lot. It's just scary to hear that. Uh, I'm trying to remember other players on that team, but I think you mentioned the ones I know. Um, I didn't really know much about that team because I was in LA, but I was so young too, so I wanted. I remember coming down here to visit my aunt one Christmas.
James, 10 players.
10 players, jeez. I actually thought it was more, but okay.
Chris Mims, welfare check, cardiac arrest. Sean Lee, cardiac arrest, double pneumonia. Louis Bush, heart attack. Junior Seau, we know about that one. Courtney Hall, unknown reasons. Eric Moten, unknown reasons. Curtis Whitley, drug overdose. Doug Miller, struck by lightning. Rodney Culver, plane crash.
Jeez.
David Griggs, car accident. And sadly, James, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's also sadly a very interesting, weird paradox parallel. You know, the 1984 Padres were also one of those like triumph and tragedy teams. Alan Wiggins, Tony Gwynn Sr., Dick Williams, Dave Dravecky losing his arm, Eric Shao. The 98 Padres, Tony Gwynn Sr., as I already mentioned. Rob Piccolo passing away. Daryl Ackerfeld's the bullpen coach passing away. Kevin Towers passing away. So
Kevin
sadly, it's one of those triumph and tragedy stories that kind of in a way, you know, sucks to hear when teams get to a big game and, you know, you win or lose and then stuff like that happens.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet, but I know Hacksaw had a program on the '94 Chargers. I have it saved. I'm eventually going to watch it.
It was a great 3-part series about the foundation being laid, the hiring of Bobby Beathard, the hiring of Bobby Ross, Alex Spanos, God bless his soul, owning the franchise after Gene Klein sold the team in '84. Alex kind of getting his footing in place, then getting Beathard and Ross, then of course '92, '94.
Yeah,
and they also did a full show too about the title game in Pittsburgh too.
I'll eventually get to all of that. I've been so behind on his shows, but yeah, it's amazing how it was like after the Clippers left, it was just a 2-town team, and now it's a 1-town team, and you see how people rallied around the Padres the last 4 years. You kind of had that feeling back of '94, I would think. A little bit of '98 there, just without the big success, but you had people really rally around the team. I just remember people celebrating in 2020 when we
knocked out St. Louis.
Yeah, and people were celebrating in the streets and all that. And I think didn't the Chargers have a parade downtown even after the Super Bowl loss?
That, and then the Padres brought them out for opening day '95, and then the Padres also had a parade after they lost the World Series in '98.
Yeah, so I hear that in other cities.
But the thing though that always gets lost in the shuffle, that '98 Padres essentially built Petco Park because there was a city measure on the ballot that had to be passed that season for the Padres to probably stay in town and to get out of Qualcomm Stadium. And sure enough, the World Series run, and they got 75% of the vote to make it happen.
Yeah. Other from that, I have no other memories about them. About the '94 Chargers. They just happened to. I think they made the playoffs the next season too. I want to say '95. But it was unfortunate they couldn't go back to the Super Bowl and maybe have a chance to stay in town. It would have been great.
Yeah, I mean, all the close calls that we had, though, like the 04, Nate Kading misses against the Jets, Chad Pennington and the Jets win the game at a very soggy Qualcomm Stadium, the 14-2 Chargers, and of course Marlon McCree fumbling against the Patriots. They got beat by them a couple of times. The heroic efforts, though, of Phillip Rivers to play on 2 torn ACLs. Billy Volek wins a game for them in Indianapolis at RCA Dome. But, of course, the Chargers cannot get over the hump of that unbeaten Pats team. And then, sadly, of course, what ended up happening after the golden run of that they had, though, of course, led to the team ultimately leaving town and the stadium sadly being torn down in the process. And, yeah, I mean, James, again, like I said, it was very not eye-opening, but kind of cool to kind of live that moment vicariously, because I was 8 months old when they were going to the Super Bowl in '95.
Okay, you mentioned it was a man and a woman, right? And was it like a home video the people were taking? Because I've seen that.
Yeah, it was a home video on top of some clippings of KNST and KUSI
Okay,
51.
I've seen that before. I watched that. Yeah. Because I remember, like they showed the crowd being there, and they wouldn't leave after that too. I think.
Oh,
like everybody stuck around.
They began storming the field after
That's what
they
it
signed
was.
off.
Yeah. So I've seen that video. I think probably a year or so ago, and okay, now I remember that part for sure. Yeah.
But still, 62,000 people filling Jack Murphy Stadium to just welcome the team home at 7 o'clock local time. And, KNSD, Extra 690, The Beach 106.5, 91X all being there to broadcast live. And, and then, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton MCs the whole event, and Maureen Golding, who was the mayor at the time, was there. And then every player, I think, James, got a chance to speak on the mic. And it was so, cool to, hear these guys talk and, hear how amped they were. And, Darren Carrington, holding the AFC Championship trophy. And now his daughter, Dejanay's playing professional women's basketball, and her brother, Darren Jr. is playing pro indoor football with the Massachusetts parts of the IFL. And, they all had their stogies. They all had terrible towers that were thrown on the field. And I think it was Natron Means trolled the Steelers, because I think, James, what gets lost in the shuffle further here was that the Steelers kind of in a way overlooked the Chargers. Everybody in their right mind looked over San Diego. Of course, they're not going to beat the Dolphins led by Marino and Don Shula. But a story came out of that, though, James. It had poured the night before the first game that the Dolphins played against the Chargers in San Diego in the first round of the postseason. And the Dolphins wanted to do a walkthrough the day before the game, and it had poured, and there was a tarp over the field. So Pat Curran, who was Hacksaw's number 1 or number 2 right-hand man when it came to the radio stream, or radio broadcast, I should say, on 690, he was also like a operations manager for Jack Murphy Stadium. He says, "Coach, it's raining. You're not doing a walkthrough." So Shula throws a bitch fit and calls front office, and he says, "You're going to take that tarp off now and let them do their walkthrough." So Shula had surgery on his Achilles, I believe, and he was driving a flipping golf cart on the sidelines. So Shula chewed up the field in the east end of the end zone over where the scoreboard would be, so on the east side of the east side of the stadium. So Pat Stoyanovich comes on to kick the game-winning field goal. But Shula had driven, there was still tire treads in that particular part of the field where Shula drove his flipping golf cart through the day before, and Pete Stoyanovich was wide right, and the Chargers won the game after they were just getting crushed in the first half of play. Like, they could not get in the end zone and whatnot, and they finally got it going. And then, of course, James, they go to Pittsburgh, and the Steelers, they were going to make rap videos based off of One Hit Wonder, 69 Boys, and Tootsie Roll about going to the Super Bowl. And the Chargers, of course, beat them. And, of course, Natron Means says, "I want all of you people, all of you idiots, to come into our locker room and apologize for what you wrote about our organization." And I think the telling or very cool moment, James, was when Greg Gumbel gave Alex Spanos the trophy for the AFC Championship. And Alex says, "Greg, I told you we had no chance here, but yet who's getting the last laugh in a way?" And I just remember Alex saying, I'm silent over and over, like, "Oh my goodness, this is the biggest thrill of my life," basically. And then literally when the Chargers came home on that night, Natron Means got on the mic and said, "Forget the Steelers. We're going to sing our own Tootsie Roll version. Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl." It was such a phenomenal thing. And of course, we know what happened, though, at Robbie Stadium again. They got freaking clobbered by, I think, arguably the best offense I've ever seen probably in NFL history. Jerry Rice, Ricky Waters, Steve Young, give me a break.
Totally.
Oh. With that, though, James and mine, nice to reminisce and go down memory lane a little bit here on the near 3-hour show. But hey, what else is new? James, with that finally in mind, final thoughts for the night's program are what?
I totally forgot this, but speaking of up north football, Cooper Kupp has been informed that the Rams are going to trade him eventually this offseason. So that's something to look at. He's been there since 2017. And yeah, that was really shocking to read today. It just sucks because I thought he was going to be a Ram for life. And you just wonder, though, if he's been used up. And you wonder what team will get him and whatever the case is with that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next couple of days before the trade deadline, on Thursday for the NBA, because got to figure out with Jimmy Butler. Bradley Beal has that no trade clause. I wonder if the Suns will make him waive it. It's going to be a fun mess that, Miami and Pat Riley and all them have to figure out. So I'm looking forward to that.
James, final thoughts from me. This comes in from KSL TV in Salt Lake City. James, your beloved Utah Hockey Club had to go back to the drawing board about their team names due to ongoing trademark issues with the U.S. Trademark Patent Office. So the 6 names that were there are all now off the board because of trademark issues involving Yeti. They cannot be called the Yeti or Yetis because of the Yeti Cooler Company. So we're down to 3, James. The Utah Outlaws, Utah Mammoth, or the Utah Hockey Club. That is it.
What was the first one again?
Outlaws, Mammoth, and Hockey Club.
When I think of Outlaws, I think of Las Vegas Outlaws of the XFL in 2001. And I don't think
the beleaguered franchise who played in the Arena Football League at one point for 5 years.
Oh, yeah. So when I think of Salt Lake City, I don't think of Outlaws. I think of something that deals with snow, and Mammoth would probably be the closest thing. Or, if nothing else comes up better, we're going to the club.
We go to the hockey club, baby. Go to the hockey club.
Sure. What was the one you wanted?
Oh, man. Well, Blizzard was also on there, and it got axed, too, because I think Dairy Queen probably said, no, what are you doing? Sadly.
It's a form of nature. It's not.
It's a form of nature, but probably the Avalanche probably said, we're already a form of nature. Go kick rocks.
They're right next to each other.
They're going to be rival clubs eventually, rival teams, I think especially if they pick Mammoth, I think the Avalanche will throw a huge bitch fit because the Cronkies own the Denver-based lacrosse team who's also called the Colorado Mammoth.
Oh, my God.
So I think it's going to be Outlaws or it's going to be freaking Hockey Club.
Outlaws, that sounds tough, but I think in another.
I think it's better than the Utah Wasatch for a mountain range in Utah and a, I guess, fictional animal, who lives in Salt Lake City.
Okay, no. A lot of people would hate saying that for the announcing.
Utah Wasatch goal scored by number 32, James Gonzalez. His first goal, first point of the season, first career NHL goal. Assisted by number 5, Clayton Keller. Time on the goal, 12:52. Again for the Wasatch. The goal by Gonzalez from Keller at 12:52.
That's one thing, too. Why do y'all, I say the announcers at the arena, why do y'all announce it after the puck is dropped when they start play again? It's
usually just kind of like common courtesy usually that we usually do.
But it's just weird how that is. They don't announce it right after the cheering is over. They announce it
usually
when the puck
what
is
happens,
on.
and this happens a lot, James, is that you have to get clearance, I would say, but you have to also let the replay officials and the stat rats see who got the assist, because there could be a little small deflection, believe it or not, off of a skate lace, and that goal becomes the guy who tipped it in off of his skate lace. So they look at angles, they slow it down, and it could take, I could get it right away, or it could be a little bit of a lull because we're not sure. Did James actually get his skate on the puck, or was that off the defenseman? Or did it go off of his body and in some capacity? Like those little small nuances is why sometimes it will not be given out right away. And that's why we wait till we're back into progress usually, just because they could, we could announce it, but then they could take it back and say, no, it was actually McClurg from Gonzalez, not Gonzalez from Keller and McClurg at 12:52.
I always wondered that because no one else does that, because usually they let the gameplay play without any talk. Maybe
and usually in soccer they'll usually get it up because usually you're only announcing the goal scorer in outdoor soccer.
I never even thought of that. I still haven't been to a soccer game. Hopefully, sometime soon. Oh yeah, just thank you for all the people who watched tonight. Brandon, who commented in as well. Who knows how cold it is up where he is?
Yeah, hopefully. Well, spring's almost here because pitchers and catchers go to camp in 2 weeks. Simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, folks, in mind, glad to have you folks around here for a near 3-hour program as we near 1 o'clock in the morning here on the left coast. We'll see you folks back here again next Monday to recap Super Bowl 59 and also recap what was the NBA trade deadline and get ready for more baseball as, again, we have pitchers and catchers due into reporting to camp sometime in a couple of days. But again, a huge thanks to Brandon Herrera. And for those who join us here on Coast to Coast on Facebook, YouTube, and on the Calamax Sports Twitch channel, we'll see you folks back here again next Monday, 10 o'clock Pacific time, back here on C2C. With that in mind, folks, have a good one. Till next time. Bye-bye.